I am the Thousand Machine. The voice was crisp, commanding, and undeniably magnetic. It came from a stunning woman with a fiery figure who stood proudly before the crowd. But what truly made everyone remember her wasn't her looks, it was her identity. She was the headmaster. To make things easier, she continued, her voice sweet yet heavy with authority, you may call me boss. In fact, I prefer it that way. The subtle threat hidden in her smile made everyone instinctively straighten their backs. Greetings, boss, the crowd echoed in unison. Chu Tiannan, however, couldn't suppress a bitter smile, because he had just seen the martial god, Unlaina herself, shoot him a meaningful glance. A glance full of implication. So our headmaster this year is Lorden, the famed Thousand Machine martial god. Rumors whispered among the recruits. Unlaina, the Thousand Machine, she's strict, brutal even, demanding beyond reason. Some of the new recruits were from powerful families. They recognized her, but wisely kept their mouths shut. Boss, why must you do this? Chu Tiannan sighed inwardly, unable to meet her sharp, knowing eyes. Suddenly, a powerful wave slammed onto the shore nearby, echoing like thunder, cold and foreboding. Unlaina stepped forward, pointing at the gathered candidates. From today onward, all your so-called titles, genius, prodigy, whatever, mean nothing. From now on, you have one identity. She swept her eyes across them, voice chilling as ice. Codename, Rookie. Then she returned to the line of instructors, flashing a deceptively sweet smile. But no one was fooled. That smile was anything but friendly. And to properly welcome all you rookies to the Martial God League, she said, clapping her hands lightly, I've arranged a special welcome ceremony. A cold shiver ran down Chu Tiannan's spine. He wasn't alone. Clap, clap. With her final clap, dozens of figures in pristine white robes appeared behind the instructors. Each one wore the emblem of the Martial God League on their arm. But it wasn't the robes that drew attention. It was the power radiating from their bodies. Speed, pressure, auras that dwarfed the rookies like mountains over ants. What's going on? Someone cried out in confusion. Unlaina calmly addressed them from the center of the instructor line. This is your welcome ceremony, she said with a smile. These are your seniors, your opponents. She paused, then added casually, the first 10 people caught will be eliminated. In an instant, understanding dawned. This isn't a welcome ceremony. It's an elimination match. Run, someone shouted, and chaos erupted. Though their strength was lacking compared to the veterans, none of the rookies were fools. Each was a battle-hardened talent, and no one wanted to be one of the 10 sacrificed. Stick with me. Chu Tiannan barked, grabbing Xiongli and Lan Ju by the arms and retreating swiftly. He had known from the beginning. Unlaina's ceremony was anything but celebratory. Whoosh, whoosh. 2 figures came soaring across the field, grinning and laughing. They weren't flying in the strictest sense, but they moved so fast it might as well have been flight. Hey, you 3, don't bother running. It's over for you. The 2 white-robed seniors were closing in. One of them reached for Lan Ju, the slowest of the trio. Kid, better luck in your next life. Lan Ju didn't look back. He just ran, teeth gritted, fear in his eyes. Whoosh. Just as the hand was about to grab Lan Ju, a shadow shot in. A figure in black surged forward, Chu Tiannan. He struck with his palm, force coiling around his arm like a thundercloud. Bang! The first senior tried to counter with a brutal kick, confident in his power. The 2 blows collided, palm versus leg, unleashing a wave of shock that rippled through the battlefield. But as the white-robed senior prepared to follow up, his expression changed. He realized, too late, that something was wrong. Forgive me, senior. Chu Tiannan's voice came from behind him now, a ghostly blur, faster than thought. His cold palm struck the senior's waist, precise and devastating. The senior gasped, staggered, and dropped to the ground. Chu Tiannan's palm struck the waist of the white-robed youth with the force of a roaring earth dragon. The impact sent the young man hurtling through the air like a cannonball. Doubling? The youth gasped, disbelief in his eyes as he soared backward. He had expected an easy victory, a quick grab, and some prestige. Instead, he was met with overwhelming power. He crashed hard into the ground, coughed blood, and passed out. "I've hit an iron wall," muttered the second young man, whose feminine features twisted with alarm. Watching his companion fall, he quickly reassessed the black-clad youth before him, Chu Tiannan, bearing a dark golden longsword across his back. Chu Tiannan lowered his arm and winced slightly. That last strike had met unexpected resistance. What a tough body, he thought grimly, but there was no time to reflect. Like lightning, he flashed forward, closing the distance to the second attacker with a savage punch aimed at the chest. "Oh, I'm not as easy as my brother," the feminine youth sneered. He shifted his stance, abandoning his target Lanju, and moved with an eerie grace. His every step flowed like water, each motion balanced, delicate, almost like a dance of yin and yang. Chu Tiannan's fist sliced through air. It should have landed, but it didn't. His punch felt like it struck nothing at all, like punching a shadow. What kind of movement technique is this? Chu Tiannan frowned. His strength, capable of felling lord-class beasts, felt ineffective. Time to teach you arrogant rookies your place," the feminine youth mocked, eyes glowing with strange amusement. He weaved around Tiannan again, preparing for a counter. Meanwhile, Xiong and Lanju, who had been retreating, suddenly realized something was wrong. "Shit," Xiong growled, turning back. "Brother, I'm coming." Ever since Chu Tiannan had defeated him, Xiong had sworn loyalty. And now, watching Tiannan outnumbered, there was no hesitation. Lanju cursed under his breath. "Damn it, guess we're all in this together." He turned and sprinted after Xiong. The feminine youth raised an eyebrow at the charging duo. So eager to fall into a trap. He dodged Chu Tiannan's blow once more and lunged toward the incoming rookies, arms outstretched to grab them both. "You think you could take two of us at once?" Xiong bellowed. He slammed his foot into the earth. The ground split beneath him, and two massive axes leapt from his back into his hands. With a roar, he swung them in a furious whirlwind. Lanju, calmer but equally resolute, pulled the long cloth off his back. Wrapped inside was a sniper rifle. Pitch black. No markings. Just cold, sleek lethality. One of the instructors, a sharp-eyed man known as the Raptor Martial God, narrowed his gaze, intrigued. "That gun," he muttered. "Didn't expect that thing to show up. Maybe these rookies have some teeth after all." Another instructor scoffed. "Talent means nothing if they don't become Valkyries. If they're eliminated here, they're just wasted potential." Most instructors nodded. "Brutal but true. Move, brother," Lanju shouted. His teeth clenched as he took aim, the rifle beginning to glow with a sea blue hue. A wind vortex formed around the muzzle, charged and deadly. Boom! The rifle spat a bullet of pure light, surging forward with terrifying explosive force. Chu Tiannan felt the energy behind him and instinctively dodged aside. The feminine youth, mid-attack, barely saw it coming. Too fast. Too late. "Rookie bastard," he cursed, arms crossing in front of him as he summoned a barrier of raw force. Boom! The explosion echoed like thunder, shaking the battlefield. Veterans and rookies alike turned in stunned silence. "Looks like Fire and Water Boy just lost," murmured one veteran with sword-shaped brows. As the smoke cleared, Chu Tiannan tensed. "Please don't be dead." Then he saw it. A long metal umbrella rolled along the ground in front of the blast zone. Chu Tiannan recognized it instantly. Unliena's myriad chance umbrella. Before he could react further, her cold voice rang out across the field. "Whoever captures those three," she said, pointing with her long, painted nail straight at Chu Tiannan, Xiong and Lanju, "will be rewarded 10,000 points by the military." All eyes turned to the three rookies, and the hunt began.
Hey, welcome to Firescale Audiobooks. If you enjoy our audiobooks, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, feel free to share your review in the comments section below.
Whoever catches those three people, the military industry will reward -yuan. At this moment, Unlina stood up, grasped it with her hand, retracted the myriad manifestation umbrella, and immediately pointed at the young man in black and the others, yelling softly, "Military workers?" Hearing this, the veterans around who were still looking for targets immediately turned their attention to Chu Tiannan and the others. "Oh no, I knew it was this look." Lan Ju cursed secretly. He retracted the sniper rifle in his hand, came to Chu Tiannan, and asked, "Brother, what should we do?" At this time, Chu Tiannan glanced coldly, and suddenly found that there were pairs of greedy eyes in the distance, and suddenly fell here, and when his eyes turned to Enlai Na in the distance. The latter actually gave him a shallow smile, which made Chu Tiannan smile bitterly in his heart. "Boss, I don't want you to play around like this. To treat special people, you have to use special methods." Enlai Na's beautiful eyes fell on the speechless figure in black, and the corners of her mouth curved slightly. "If you don't want me, I have plenty of ways to convince you. 30,000 military industry. Mr. Chinji, will it be a bit?" Raptor couldn't help asking, because in his understanding, this military industry with a unit of dash is a reward only for high-level tasks. Is it a bit of an overkill to catch 3 little dolls? Although they admitted that Lan Ju was different from Chu Tiannan, even their instructors were a little eager to get this reward. "You'll know how valuable this guy and the little guy with the gun are in a while." Enlai Na didn't say much, just watching from a distance. The rest of the instructor team looked at each other, then shook their heads slightly without saying anything. There's no way. Whoever makes Chinji martial god so strong that everyone here is not enough to watch with an umbrella. These 3 guys are worth military projects? The eyes of the old people around who wanted to grab other people suddenly lit up, and they directly discarded the meat in front of them. Although catching a rookie and giving it to 1,000 military workers, in comparison, Chu Tiannan and others are more attractive. "After I'm done, you retreat." Seeing more and more old people slowly crowding around, even Chu Tiannan didn't dare to be careless in the slightest, because he doesn't want to use the strength of his controller, if this is the case, once it is exposed. This old card will no longer be a whole card. "Brother, I'll fight side by side with you, or start all over again." Even a clay figurine still has a bit of earth. Xiong Lai holds a double-axed axe, his face full of evil spirits. Yes, what Xiong Lai said is right. I won't back down. I'll start all over again. At this time, Lan Ju changed the bullets in the sniper rifle to blank bullets and said coldly, seeing that the 2 of them did not retreat at all. Chu Tiannan sighed helplessly. "I will do my best." As he said that, he finally pulled out the dark gold long sword behind him again. With the unsheathing of a Yintian sword, a strong hurricane surged around Chu Tiannan. Just because of this tyrannical fluctuation, even the high-ranking Wu Zong dare not get close easily. "This kid is weird. Everyone be careful. There are too many of us. We won't give him a chance to break through." Among the more than 20 old people who gradually surrounded him, one of the young men in white clothes and blue eyes holding a long gun shouted. However, there's also competitiveness among these old people, and some people have already rushed out first. This is a fat figure like a meat bomb chariot, giving people a greasy feeling. At this moment, the small eyes of the fat figure are full of greed, and immediately leaps forward, and the body rotates at a high speed. Like a battle fortress, they rush towards Chu Tiannan and the others. "Military workers, I'm here." The plump young man from the Martial God Alliance has only had more than military workers. This is now just yuan for catching a newcomer. This kind of attraction is really unmatched by anyone. Snort. Chu Tiannan snorted coldly, seeing the chariots of meatballs rolling towards him. He knew that once he was approached, he would definitely not feel good. Because the plump young man's round body was spinning at high speed, the strong storm sound should not be underestimated, and even the surrounding space was shaken a lot. This impatient fat man. Seeing this, the young men and women around couldn't help cursing in a low voice. Obviously, they didn't expect to be preempted. On the other hand, Chu Tiannan sneered endlessly, and when a meat bomb chariot charged towards him, he swung the dark gold long sword with his backhand. Boom! As if playing baseball, Chu Tiannan carried a strong gust of wind with his sword back, and was immediately watched by all the astonished eyes. It even knocked the extremely powerful meat bomb chariot into the air. Boom! With a horizontal swing of a long sword, Chu Tiannan directly knocked the mighty meat bomb chariot into the air. It's like playing baseball, hitting people far away. Brat, we are endless. At this moment, the fat man also realized that something was wrong, but it was too late to change the route. As an old man at the peak Wuzong level, he was blown away in shame by a newcomer. This kind of shame made his eyes fire. At the same time, Ning firmly remembered the name Chu Tiannan. There are too many deaths. Compared with the martial god, your hatred is nothing to me. Chu Tiannan didn't have the slightest estimate. Just kidding, he dared to offend even the killing Valkyrie, let alone a guy who wasn't even a quasi-Valkyrie. Call out. The fat man who was knocked into the air drew a beautiful arc in the sky, and immediately after a burst of howling, he hit the back mountain. What? The pinnacle Wuzong was blown away by a sword. The other old students who originally wanted to step forward hesitated a little. Their strength was not as good as that fat man, but Chu Tiannan's sword really suppressed them. Catch those two, and then work together to see if we can catch the leak. Those old students who were not very strong immediately reached a consensus and immediately rushed in the direction of Lanju and Xianglai. It's so shameful that the old bird was defeated by the rookie with one move. It's really shameful. The young man in white with a spear in his hand frowned, and then his figure suddenly became angry, pointing the spear point directly at Chu Tiannan's eyebrow. Clang! I saw Chu Tiannan raise his Yin Tian sword to resist, and the head-to-head collision of this spear and sword caused waves of yellow sand to splash. The smog is rolling. Good marksmanship. While resisting the opponent's spear, Chu Tiannan instantly felt it. The sore-browed young man in front of him has extraordinary strength, and he has reached the level of a quasi-war god. And looking at the age, they're not much older than themselves. What a powerful force. However, seeing Chu Tiannan's astonishment, the sore-browed young man's face was cold, but his heart was extremely shocked, because, as a quasi-war god level, he was only in a tie with the opponent face-to-face. Regardless of the difference between the two, the sore-browed young man noticed that Chu Tiannan's martial artist level seemed to be that of a high-ranking martial ancestor. Sure enough, it's worth military products, and the high-ranking Wuzong can compete with me. If this is the same level, wouldn't it be abused? But he was blocked by Chu Tiannan again and again, and the speed of the two was evenly matched. In fact, Chu Tiannan hasn't used all his strength yet. He found that since he reached the high-level martial ancestor level, his overall strength has matched that of a low-level martial god. So for this extremely gifted young man with sword eyebrows, it is not enough for Chu Tiannan to go all out. Everyone, don't keep your hands. This person is weird. Seeing the situation, the sword-browed young man shouted coldly and said, "Take care of the close combat first, and the gunner won't be far away." Huh, you can't even beat Wang Yu. The burly young man, standing behind him with his arms folded, laughed. He carried a sword and shield similar to his stature behind him. However, his strength is so tyrannical because there seems to be a faint mobilization of the power of heaven and earth around him. Obviously, this person is also the standard of quasi-war god level. Stop talking nonsense. It's impossible for you to monopolize the military industry. After taking down this kid, what will we do? Wang Yu swept away Chu Tiannan with a spear in his hand, staring at him coldly, and his voice returned. Hearing this, the Jiandun youth grinned, because he also noticed the clue and immediately walked over, looked at Chu Tiannan, and said with a faint smile, "Rookie, you can let two quasi-war gods deal with you. You are proud enough." Seeing this, Chu Tiannan touched his nose, smiled secretly, shook his head slightly, and said, "Let's go together. The two of you alone are not enough to watch." At this moment, he had to hold back the hatred as much as possible, so that Xianglai and Lanju would be caught later. Now the whole scene is quite chaotic. Nearly 10 of the 35 newcomers have been caught, and now there are more and more veterans. On the other hand, the remaining rookies are either wretched and evasive, or they are so powerful that the veterans can't deal with them alone. You guys are cheating, bullying the few with the more. The red-haired young man was pushed to the ground and said angrily, "Hey, what you want is that more people bully you and less people. Do you have a temper?" At this moment, the red-haired young man was pressing 3 old students. They sneered, but they were also secretly surprised at the strength of the other party. It takes a full 5 people to subdue this person. Let's see where you are going. Seeing that the arrest operation was coming to an end, many old students greedily surrounded him. The target pointed directly at Chu Tiannan, who was holding the dark sword. "Very good. Come to me. I'm worth 10,000. Chu Tiannan laughed when he saw this, seeing more and more old students encircling him. Instead, the corners of his mouth lifted slightly, and he smiled brightly. "Call out." Among the newcomers surrounded was not only Chu Tiannan, but in another area, a beautiful figure in blue was moving nimbly in the battle. Holding a water whip in her hand, she constantly toppled the young figures rushing around, as if the peak Wuzong was to a girl. No pressure at all. "Brother." When Xianying in blue saw the red-haired young man being subdued to the ground, a ray of flame erupted in her beautiful eyes. She swung the cold and tyrannical water whip and knocked an old student who was on the way to the ground. Immediately, the figure turned into a blue shadow and went straight to the instructor team. To be precise, it locked on a hyena who was calmly drinking soda with a pretty face. The instructor team naturally noticed this phenomenon, but they didn't even look at the behavior of the girl in blue. In fact, Raptor and the others as instructors logically wanted to stop them, but this hyena inserted in suddenly. Regarding the strength of the latter, the members of the former instructor team were all very curious, so they simply turned a blind eye. And hyena, on the other hand, was still drinking soda, completely ignoring the girl in blue who was thrown by the water whip. Seeing that people ignored her, the blue-clothed girl's pretty face turned frosty, and the water whip suddenly made a long gash, sweeping straight at the fiery chief instructor. "Call out." In the next second, Enlina just glanced at the figure in blue, and the majesty of the Valkyrie was like a mountain, suppressing it. The sudden coercion of the martial god made even the members of the instructor team feel the pressure, and they were all shocked. Snort. Facing the pressure of the martial god who could not resist, Lan Yiqianing gritted her teeth tightly, but finally couldn't hold on before the attack hit her body, but was first suppressed by Enlina's power of the Valkyrie. "The strength is good, but I'm a little ignorant." Enlina seemed to be okay at this time, still drinking soda, and reminded, "Take it away." After finishing speaking, her beautiful eyes fell on the slender figure holding the dark golden long sword again, and the corner of her mouth smiled slightly. "This kid can still laugh? Let's see how long you can last." Facing the siege of many old students, Chu Tiannan took a closer look and found that more than -% of the old students had already surrounded him. He tightened the Yintian sword in his hand, but he felt a little excited at this moment, because he just had a chance to try out how strong the innate skills used by the high-ranking Wuzong were. "Let you laugh, brothers." For some reason, seeing Chu Tiannan's sunny smile, Wang Yu got angry and shouted, "Yes, let's go together. This kid is comparable to a quasi-war god. Whoever lives and accounts." That's right, we have a lot of people. At this time, dozens of old students reached a consensus, and among them there were 4 quasi-war gods. This lineup can be said to sweep everything under the martial arts. "Call out, call out, call out." Facing the siege of many figures, Chu Tiannan's heart was as still water at this time, and the eyes of the starry sky were extremely deep. At this time, the Yintian sword in his hand moved horizontally, making a vibrato, and the vibrato of the blade spread out into sound waves. It seems trivial, but it doesn't pose much of a threat, because these old students don't even know that they have stepped into Chu Tiannan's set. It's almost there. Chu Tiannan held the Yintian sword and stepped backwards, moving lightly sideways, and made a sweeping gesture in the next second. Grab him! All the old students sneered when they saw this. They really didn't care about each other's desperate efforts. Who made them so many? Even if Chu Tiannan was comparable in strength to the quasi-martial god, how long could he hold on? It's now, seeing all the old students in such a mighty manner, the corners of his mouth curled up in a ray of sunlight. Immediately, the blades swept out, and the invisible waves of the sword swept out one after another like a raging ocean wave. The majestic sword wave with its monstrous momentum caught everyone off guard. Come and feel the power of position. Chu Tiannan sneered. What? Rewind. The old students who were close to him suddenly felt that something was wrong, because they felt that Jianba had gone beyond what they could bear. But with dozens of people swarming up, how could it be said that they can retreat if they say retreat? When the sword wave swept across and spread to Kai, the first 4 quasi-war gods, including Wang Yu, fell to the ground without any suspense. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, like cutting wheat, a large number of old students lost consciousness in an instant, leaving only Chu Tiannan standing alone in the center of the encirclement. He is like a real warrior who is invincible, standing in this world with a long sword in his hand. Chu Tiannan actually took advantage of the strength of the old students in one pot, which really shocked everyone, and some rookies who were suppressed couldn't help but applaud. Brothers are awesome. Brothers are doing well. Give them some color. Call out, call out. However, the good times didn't last long. Chu Tiannan had just dealt with a large number of old students, only to find that except for Enlina, there were actually 8 people left in the instructor's team. Their faces were solemn, and they immediately surrounded them. The might of the martial god was like the mountain of Mount Tai, unshakable. Seeing the 8 martial gods attacking and suppressing them, Chu Tiannan finally came to his senses and said with a wry smile, "This is a big game." On the mysterious island. At this time, at the edge of an island, there was a row of young figures lying on top of it. And some strong men with martial god level strength are a bit of a headache, because more than % of the old students who participated in the hunting of rookies this time were directly swept away by one person, and they are still in a coma. And the culprit, lying on the ground at this time, was being fiercely controlled by 3 warriors. It's over, it's a big game now. Chu Tiannan lay on the ground with his head in his hands and secretly said with a wry smile. Chu Tiannan was pressed tightly by the 3 martial gods, and he couldn't move at all, because just now he activated the position of Yin Tian's sword, and it still contains the power of double cultivation. Possessing the power of 2 high-ranking martial ancestors and the talent skill of Yin Tian's sword activated, within the sweeping range, even elementary martial gods have to be recruited. As for the quasi-Valkyrie, it's just a joke in front of position. In the past, Chu Tiannan would definitely not be able to beat the quasi-martial god, but now he is different. The current Chu Tiannan is undoubtedly the so-called real strong. After all, his true strength, if coupled with the dual output of the controller, is already comparable to that of the elementary Valkyrie. It's just that Chu Tiannan is not a real martial god after all, and he has no way to release the might of the martial god. His soul strength is extremely high, but he can't withstand the suppression from the real strong. This is the order and rules of the world. Even if Chu Tiannan was the ruler of the demon dragon in his previous life, in this life, he has to climb up step by step. Good boy, you really are here, and you gave us a meeting gift when you first came to the Martial God Alliance? At this time, the raptor pressed Chu Tiannan's shoulder firmly and asked in surprise. As a rudimentary martial god, he could feel the lethality contained in that sword wave just now, even though Chu Tiannan didn't really move the killer. Otherwise, the old students at the end of this time would not be in a coma, but really dead. It turns out that Chu Tiannan is the one with the highest evaluation in the Alliance. No wonder. Raging Fire Martial God was sitting on Chu Tiannan's lap, his beautiful eyes thoughtful. The so-called welcome ceremony this time is an action in the past. The purpose is to kill the spirit of this group of young people. It's good now. The vigor has not been killed, but Chu Tiannan, who broke out in the middle, has been given a pot. This is the old bird team designated by the instructor team, but Chu Tiannan took over it. It's shameful that it can be said to be thrown at home. 3 respected martial gods. Let's discuss, and let me get up. Can I not move? Chu Tiannan's mouth twitched slightly at this moment, especially when facing the raging fire Valkyrie's tender body sitting directly on his lap. Make him so upset. Forget it. Before the chief instructor speaks, you'd better be honest. Raptor laughed and patted Chu Tiannan on the head, then said in a low voice, "Boy, what is the secret of your sword? Tell me, I also play swords." After all, the sword just now was too strong, and it really shocked all the instructors. His raptor martial god can be regarded as an old warrior, but he has never seen it before, and he immediately envied him. Back to martial god of raptor, I created this skill myself. Chu Tiannan was startled when he heard this, and then smiled wryly. Let him hand over position. Let's talk about whether it can be handed over first, because only the first stage of Yannianjian can be released, and this is the only one. There is nowhere to learn. Self-created? If it was said that the instructor team shocked Chu Tiannan's strength before, now Raptor and the others looked at each other, and they were all silent. What is the concept of being able to create your own cheats? Gifted? The future is limitless? No, not at all. But any strong man who can create his own cheats is a character who trembles 3 times. But Chu Tiannan not only didn't talk about it, but also cultivated from elementary warrior to advanced martial artist in less than a year. This speed of cultivation alone is already called a monstrosity. Now, he can create his own cheats, created at the high Wu Zone level. This kind of talent can only be said to be unique. As long as Chu Tiannan's growth path does not fall, his future achievements will surely exceed the vast majority of people. There is another pillar in the Tobu Hall. The one who spoke was another middle-aged man with a cold expression. There was obviously some displeasure in his words. It seems that he is the martial god of Baiwukan. On the other hand, Enlina, a beautiful woman with a hot body, walked slowly, looking down at all the newcomers who were pressed to the ground by the might of the Valkyrie, and said calmly, "I'm not feeling well today. I'll gather here tomorrow. Take the old man away. Let's go." The next day, it was still at the edge of the island, and it was still the familiar team of instructors. But at this time, there are only 25 talented candidates left. It seems that the elimination rate of this Martial God Alliance is really high. No wonder everyone wants to enter. Chu Tiannan looked around, feeling the hidden power. If you form a few Wuzong teams randomly from here, I believe that the comprehensive strength is already the top existence under the Wushin team. It has to be said that to eliminate talented candidates to average in just one day, it is estimated that the Martial Gods Alliance would dare to eliminate them so wantonly. After all, they only accept monsters. As for ordinary geniuses, it can't even reach the threshold of touching here. At this time, the sun was scorching, and today's weather was exceptionally clear. Among the instructors, Enlina walked back and forth among the rookies. Enlina passed in front of every candidate, and after a while, she slowly left. Facing many talented candidates, Enlina was indifferent when she got it, and nodded slightly when she got it, only when she faced another beautiful figure in blue and a stern young man with black hair. Only then slowly revealed a smile. When Enlina finally came to Chu Tiannan and stared deeply, Chu Tiannan, on the other hand, was a little afraid to look at the other party's eyes full of deep meaning. Gradually, Enlina found that she really liked looking at the handsome young man who was taller than her in front of her. He was very attractive, and Enlina also wanted to say a few words. But because of the occasion, there is no way. Enlina had no choice but to stretch out her slender hand, patted Chu Tiannan's shoulder lightly, and said, "You still pass." "Thank you, Martial God of 1,000 Machines." Chu Tiannan straightened his back and said seriously. And if the occasion wasn't serious, Enlina almost kicked him, this guy. When Enlina finally walked back to the team of instructors, her voice was cold and indifferent. "To be honest, I am very dissatisfied with everyone's performance yesterday. Hearing this, some students sneered at it, and what's more, they chose to ignore it. But because he is a strong warrior, he didn't show it. Bringing everyone here is a mess. And Lyena's eyes were extremely sharp, scanning all the candidates, and shouted. Yesterday's welcome ceremony was to see if everyone can be united in times of crisis. As she said that, and Lina shook her head lightly and continued. However, the result really disappointed all our instructors, and your class is probably the worst. When you're in danger, you just want to flee in all directions. Is this the basic quality of a warrior? Lina lectured at the front, and the instructor team at the back looked very serious and cold, because they think they are right. However, the rest of the instructor team were also secretly surprised that the chief instructor was still a strong woman with sharp words. Don't be unconvinced why the three of Chu Tiannan and Lan Zhuxianglai are worth military workers, because they are a team. Lina pointed at Chu Tiannan and the others, and said coldly. Knowing that he was defeated, candidate Chu Tiannan still stepped forward to buy time for his companions to retreat. Although he failed, what the Martial God Alliance wants is this kind of team spirit. Lina didn't care about the newcomer candidates whose faces were constantly changing, and continued, You are only facing your own people now. When you face a large number of monsters in the future, who else can you count on besides your companions? If this is placed in the catastrophe zone, you will already be cold corpses. Lina's few words, although not high in gold content, were concise and easy to understand, and made some newcomers who were still dissatisfied suddenly silent. Yesterday, these candidates really panicked because no one wanted to be eliminated. Because of this, yesterday's scene was chaotic, even if Chu Tiannan faced a large number of warriors, except for Lan Zhu and Xianglai who helped him. Others are far away. This kind of behavior is really chilling. If I have to comment on your actions yesterday, then I can only give 2 words. Lina walked back and forth slowly, said coldly, Rubbish. With a sound of garbage, all the candidates glared at him. They're all geniuses among geniuses. Now, they're called rubbish by others. Even if it is said that they are warriors, they must defend their dignity. Report. I'm not convinced. At this moment, an angry shout came from behind Chu Tiannan. I saw a slender, dark-skinned, bald young man walking out. His steps were steady. Every step was like a low-pitched bull. With the footsteps of the bald young man, the ground trembled slightly. He pointed at Lina and shouted, I, Ma Tung of the North Martial Art Museum, challenge the martial god of 1,000 machines, willing to defend my dignity. Hearing this, bursts of cheers erupted all around. After all, Lina's words were too hurtful, and there were a few geniuses who wanted to step forward, but they were a step too late. Oh, I'm still too young. Seeing this, Chu Tiannan secretly hid his face, saw Lina looking at the bald young man who walked out, her thin lips slightly curled up, and nodded. Okay, I accept your challenge. Under the scorching sun, at the square on the edge of the island, 2 young figures stood facing each other. The boy is well-proportioned and slender, with a bald head and shining eyes, and his eyes are extremely sharp. On the other hand, the girl has a hot and slender figure, and her pair of beautiful eyes are as unripe as the surface of a lake. As for the others, it is to form a circle and straddle to watch. Ma Tung, right? And Lina looked at the bald young man thoughtfully and nodded slightly. Your aptitude is not bad. I don't need 1,000 manifestations, umbrella, and martial god coercion, and my strength is controlled at the peak of Wuzong. As long as you can make me take a step back, I will take back the word trash and apologize. As soon as these words came out, all the rookies and geniuses felt balanced. Isn't it because of the coercion of the martial god? Without this, the martial god is no different from ordinary people. That's right. I like you, Ma Tung. Don't embarrass me as a newcomer. Many people around are cheering for the bald youth. After all, they're in the same group now, so of course they have to cheer for their own camp. Brother, why don't you go up and defend our dignity? Xianglai rubbed his head, puzzled. Since he followed Chu Tiannan, his temperament has become much more simple and honest. Of course, he is still very fierce to the outside world. On the other hand, Chu Tiannan glanced at him, patted his burly shoulder, and sighed. Brother, it's hard to say. Not to mention, Chu Tiannan really likes this big man. At least he has a real temperament. Oh, hearing this, Xiongli nodded in confusion, but stopped talking. In the solemn and dignified field, Ma Teng bowed his horse and stepped forward. There were whirlwinds on the ground, and his weapons turned out to be his hands. Obviously, this is a powerful warrior, and he has reached the level of the peak Wuzong. His strength is really top-notch. I've offended you, martial god of 1,000 machines. Ma Teng stomped his feet after charging up, and the strong explosive force caused the ground to tremble slightly. He rushed towards Enlai Na like an arrow from the string, with a pair of long hands like a gibbon. His fists swirled suddenly, and he bombarded away fiercely. This seems to be a simple attack, but contains incomparably powerful attacks. Even some talented rookies feel ashamed. It's so explosive, it's even on par with me. Xiongli was a little stunned, his eyes serious. No, you're different. Don't forget, you are the highest rank of Wuzong, and he is the pinnacle of Wuzong. Lanju shook his head to remind him. And I think that under the same level, he is not your opponent. Hearing this, Xiongli looked at the blue-clothed youth in surprise, and grinned as he looked at him with a bookish face. Just say this to you, I will be your shield from now on, and the past grievances are over. In fact, Xiongli knew in his heart that there was no comparison between him and Lanju. In terms of close combat, even Ten Lanju were no good. But if we talk about long-range Cold War, the same is true in reverse. Chu Tiannan didn't speak at this time. He stared at the battlefield, watching Ma Teng's fierce attack, but Enlai Na didn't move at all. What exactly is boss doing? Chu Tiannan obviously didn't understand. After all, she is a quasi-warrior dual cultivator, but wrong. As if thinking of something, Chu Tiannan's eyes suddenly became shocked, and he looked into Enlai Na's eyes, full of surprises. Hey, brother, it's not good for you to challenge anyone. You have to challenge her. Chu Tiannan sighed, looking at the mighty Ma Teng. He could only pray for him not to lose too badly. You make a move, look down on me. Ma Teng handed over 2 punches, but Enlai Na easily avoided them. But her lower body was as firm as a rock. There is no movement at all. This made the angry Ma Teng kick again. The strong whirlwind condenses the toes. If this kick hits, even a martial arts level powerhouse will not feel good. It seemed that Ma Teng was annoyed that Enlai Na didn't intend to go all out at all. If so, then use the strongest ultimate move. Good Fengshen legs, but compared to Feng Wuxian, it's too weak. This time, Enlai Na finally moved. She was still firmly planted on the ground with her lower body, but she just stretched out her slender jade hand and then easily grasped the flying kick. Under Ma Teng's terrified gaze, he slammed hard. Boom, boom. Enlai Na easily swung her frail and slender arms through all the messes and 8 elements that Ma Teng smashed at once, and finally threw them aside, while the young man with a head on his head made long marks on the ground. His eyes were already dazed, and his mouth was moaning. No more power. Who else is not convinced? After finishing all this, Enlai Na said indifferently to all the newcomers who were full of disbelief. At this time, the rookie team was completely silent, and the corner of Chu Tiannan's mouth twitched slightly. This was the first time he had seen such a brutal solution. The newcomers who wanted a challenge before shut up immediately. Just kidding, their strength is almost the same as Ma Teng. They were all killed in an instant. Should they still go to abuse? Since you don't have any, go get your clothes and equipment, and come back here to gather in 15 minutes. Enlai Na turned around and said, seeing that everyone was stunned, she waved her hand. At this time, the raptor roared coldly. What are you doing in a daze? If you can't come back within a specified time, we will be eliminated. Elimination? Everyone was stunned, and it's too late to change clothes? Seeing this, the raptor roared again. There's still 10 or 4 minutes. SHHHHHH. This time, everyone understood that it was not a joke, and the scene suddenly became quite deserted. Even the unlucky Ma Teng was taken away instantly. The sea breeze blew past. At this moment, Chu Tiannan and others stood in the square with a total of 25 people. It's just that their clothes at this time are somewhat weird. What's wrong with this red dress? Chu Tiannan looked at himself in the fiery red dress and the red sweatpants on his lower body. This red is like the kind of big red when a happy event is coming. It is as bright as it can be if there's an aerial photo at this time. It's like a little red in the 10,000 Earth. It couldn't be more conspicuous. Feeling very weird. You can still keep it now, which shows that you have good talents and good temperament. At this time, Unlaina walked back and forth in the newcomer team. Her voice was indifferent. But that doesn't mean that you are eligible to enter the Valkyrie Alliance. Look at your armbands. Everyone looked at their arms in response, and Chu Tiannan showed a strange expression. Is this an armband? At this moment, Chu Tiannan found that there was an armband on his arm, but it didn't depict the grand and simple image of the Martial God Alliance. It was an animal with a red body, a pointed mouth, and a round head. It raised its eyebrows and stood upside down, looking very angry. Angry chick. Chu Tiannan frowned slightly, but as soon as he said that, strange gazes were cast around him. Almost laughed out loud. Brother, this is Angry Birds. Xiongli scratched his head and reminded him next to him, haven't you seen this cartoon? Oh, I'm too busy practicing, so I don't remember clearly. Hearing this, Chu Tiannan nodded slightly. As a soul traveler, where would he know where to go? Chief Instructor, are you using Angry Birds to humiliate us? One of the rookies couldn't help but angrily said, this is your identity before you enter the Martial God Alliance. Unlaina's eyes fell on the young man who asked angrily and said calmly, from now on, you are rookies, and your codenames are rookies plus numbers. Hearing this, the remaining 25 young men and women all looked at their codenames with dark faces. Really? In the armband, on the head of the angry chicken, there are numbers. I'm 001. Seeing his codename, Chu Tiannan immediately touched his nose. Rookie number 001. This codename is really novel. Before everyone is eliminated, or before entering the Martial God Alliance, this codename is your identity card. We rank them according to the comprehensive evaluation of strength. Unlaina glanced at Chu Tiannan, whose face changed slightly, and said lightly, Road. At this time, in her pair of bright eyes like flower petals, a trace of cunning passed by without a trace. Obviously, Unlaina did it on purpose. Big brother is big brother. He actually got number 001. Xiongli grinned and said enviously his codename was 014. It seems that among the 25 people, they are in the middle of the strength. What about you, the third one? Xiongli looked at Lan Ju with a sad face and said in surprise, it's okay, but you're the second one. No matter how hard you work, you'll be the last one. Because both he and Lan Ju knew big brother Chu Tiannan. Of course, as a gunner, Lan Ju could only be the third child. At this moment, Lan Ju showed an embarrassing yet polite embarrassment. Oh, by the way, there's one more thing that needs to be added. Unlaina returned to the team of instructors and said with a light smile, the top 10 rookies have a chance to stay. The top 3 must stay. Hearing this, everyone's gazes suddenly changed, and more than a dozen people immediately cast their gazes on the top 10 rookies. It looked like he wanted to challenge the snatch. Boss, you're trying to play me to death. Chu Tiannan shook his head with a wry smile. He found that at this moment, there were strange glances from all around him, some with envy and others with curiosity. What's more, there is a hint of greed and indifference. It seems that the armband in Chu Tiannan's hand is not a sweet potato at all, but a hot potato. Boss, can I ask, how can I get into the top 10? One of the rookie girls raised her hand to signal. After all, she felt that her strength should be at least in the top 10. However, the instructors gave her a code name of 022, which is obviously unfair. It's very simple. You can challenge whoever you don't like. Unlaina smiled meaningfully and said, if you win, the loser will exchange code names with you. This is one of them, because it can only be done in the later stage, and you have no authority to challenge anyone now. Unlaina pointed at the team behind her and said indifferently, you guys still have a 1-month special training in this Martial God Island. As for who can stay, it depends on luck. The next day, the off-road mountain area of East Island, Wujin Island. At this time, A group of young people were carrying heavy loads off-road, and it seemed a bit difficult to run against the scorching sun. Chu Tiannan carried a silver iron box on his back. He walked steadily and breathed evenly, but he couldn't stop the sweat from pouring out. Because at this time around his body, there are seemingly transparent fluctuations surrounding him. It was because of this vague aura that Chu Tiannan was unable to use the power of a warrior. I'll go ahead and carry the heavy load and follow the pressure of the martial god all the time. Xianglai was sweating profusely at this moment. The iron box in his hand was carried on his shoulder, but he was different from others. At this time, Xianglai was carrying 2 iron boxes because he had to help Lan Ju carry one. After all, as a gunner, Lan Ju is definitely not as strong as a warrior in terms of physical strength, and even the physical fitness of a warrior who controls the warrior is stronger than him. Second brother, to say a few words, we still have 10 kilometers. Lan Ju followed behind Xianglai to help carry the bottom of the box. Damn, you have the nerve to say that your body is not as good as that man. Xianglai scolded angrily. Brother, keep a low profile. Lan Ju quickly motioned to stop talking, but it was too late. I saw a beautiful figure with a fit body rushing towards him, and when he came up, he gave Xianglai a pestle and said angrily, 014, if you face off against my mother again, believe it or not, I'll beat you. Hearing this, Xianglai shrank his neck, glared at Lan Ju angrily, and continued running without saying anything. If this was normal, Xianglai would have already started. But there is no way. Who made him like this burly and fit girl? This girl is from Baiwugwan, codenamed 015. Brother, I'm in love. Xianglai said excitedly to Chu Tiannan yesterday, just because of a meeting of eyes. I support you, treat people with sincerity, and keep a low profile. When Chu Tiannan found out about the girl codenamed 015, he encouraged her. This twitch in my heart. Really what kind of person like? Work harder, talk less, it will consume more. Chu Tiannan pulled Xianglai forward and ran forward. At this time, with the instructor team unleashing the might of the warriors, they have no way to borrow the power of the warriors. Keep up, run, haven't you eaten? At this time, the raptor looked at the rookies running past and shouted loudly. Even the old lady who sells the freezer at the door can run faster than you. If you can't run before noon, you will be eliminated. The word eliminate is more effective than any spur, and the 25 rookies rushed forward, afraid of being left behind. Boom! At this time, a beautiful figure with blue eyes gritted her teeth and persisted, but because the iron box was too heavy, she finally fell down. Sister, work harder, don't give up. Seeing this, the red-haired young man rushed over, wanting to share his sister's burden. But his strength is only at the middle level, and his own has reached the limit, and it is obviously impossible to get another one. Don't worry about me. You run first. I have a solution. At this time, the blue-eyed girl bit her thin lips tightly. Her pretty face flushed slightly, and she desperately picked up the iron box with her 2 little hands. Her pretty Cheong nose twitched slightly, and her big watery eyes were full of stubbornness and reluctance, making one unable to help but want to love her. But the rookies passing by all chose to ignore the past when they saw this. After all, they are now in a competitive relationship. Although this girl looks slim and graceful, with a gentle temperament like water, people can't help but feel admiration. But there is no way now. After all, helping others is creating difficulties for oneself. However, this girl is codenamed 002. Who would dare to prove the existence of the finalists? I'm fine. Be obedient. You go first. You're too low in the ranking, the blue-eyed girl said urgently. She wanted to work hard, but she still didn't pick up the iron box and said to code 016, I won't leave, or I'll be eliminated with my sister. The red-haired young man was very stubborn and couldn't speak at all. This made the blue-eyed girl really helpless. 016, you go first, I'll help your sister. Just when the red-haired youth was at his wit's end, a slender figure came to him, picked up the blue-eyed girl's iron box, and stood up. 001, give me back the box. Seeing that it was Chu Tiannan who took his box, the blue-eyed girl bit her thin lips lightly, her beautiful eyes full of stubbornness. As a controller, this kind of physical work is not suitable for you. So let me do it, Chu Tiannan said evenly and steadily. After finishing speaking, Chu Tiannan ignored the pretty girl with a startled face and ran straight away, following the targets of the crowd. This guy, how dare you do this in front of me? Seeing this, Enlina felt a little upset. She thought for a while, a trace of cunning flashed across her beautiful eyes, and immediately flew to Chu Tiannan's side, smiled lightly, and said, 001, I see that you are physically strong, so let's take the little girl along. After speaking, Enlina sat on Chu Tiannan's iron box regardless of Chu Tiannan's face suddenly darkening. Boss, I won't play with you like this. At this moment, Chu Tiannan's face was darkened, and his voice quietly entered Enlina's ears. I can't help it. Who told you to be 001 now? It's right to share more with your teammates. And take this girl with you by the way, drive. Enlina covered her mouth and smiled secretly, gently pinching Chu Tiannan's ear. She likes this feeling very much, and can see the people she likes grow up every day. This should be what Enlina is most willing to do at present. Of course, what Chu Tiannan didn't know was that Enlina had already become a martial god class, and she has also been invited by the chief instructor of Valkyrie Island many times. At first, Enlina resolutely refused, but when she found out that Chu Tiannan had come to Martial God Island, only then did he pretend to reluctantly agree. The current Enlina, if divided by strength, is not worthy of any high-level Valkyrie, so being a chief instructor is more than enough. Enlina, who had a hard time taking the dual cultivation route, already possesses the strength of a high-level martial god as a junior martial god. With such strength, her status is of course very high, so Raptor and the others as elementary warriors have to be more polite to her. Chu Tiannan was speechless and immediately ignored the slender girl on his shoulder and ran to the top of the mountain with all his attention. This 007 is not bad. I really like this kid's stability. I feel that he is only a little away from the peak of Wu Zone. Raptor nodded slightly, satisfied. As for the other members of the instructor team, they were overlooking the rookies from mid-air. Look at a rookie from time to time, and then make a comment. Someone has already started to fall behind. Seeing this, Valkyrie looked towards the rear of the rookie team, and a gleam of flame flashed in her bright eyes. It seems she is very dissatisfied. Obviously, the current rookie team can be divided into 3 ladders. The first step is, of course, Chu Tiannan's front row team, and their comprehensive strength is currently the strongest. And the second step is Xiong Lai Longjue and others. As for the third step, it is the most dangerous. At this time, someone has already dropped its iron box and gave up. Survival of the fittest, this is normal. As for those with poor overall strength, they are naturally not eligible to enter the Valkyrie Island. A man beside him, who stood with his arms folded against the sky from the beginning to the end, said calmly. He was wearing a mask. Only 2 eyes were exposed, and one of them was still blood red, and his body was full of fleshy muscles. Gives a very solid sense of security. Jueshi Martial God, who do you like? Another Valkyrie, who was carrying a heavy weapon like a cannon, said with a smile. Hearing that, the masked man's gaze fell on 001 without a trace. To be precise, it was the slender figure with a fiery figure on his shoulder. Oh, I understand, everyone is a man. Raptor Martial God nodded slightly, then patted Jueshi Valkyrie and said, Then you have to act early. We can all see that the chief instructor takes special care of that 001. The fire goddess was puzzled and said, I'm not happy, because 001 is the person most likely to become a Valkyrie from the headquarters review? Perhaps. Then 001 has other special features. Raptor Valkyrie cast his deep gaze on the back of the sweating young man in black, shaking his head slightly. At least, when I was a rookie, I couldn't wipe out all the old students with one sword. Hearing this, all the Valkyries were silent, indeed, regardless of their status or status. Among the strong, only the strength is considered, not the identity and background. At least Chu Tiannan has won the respect and attention of these instructors. In the rookie team, Chu Tiannan was not the leader. At this moment, he was running in the middle of the vanguard because he didn't want to and didn't want to run for the so-called first position, which was useless and very conspicuous. It's not that Chu Tiannan can't handle these things. The main reason is that he can't let people see the clues. Swallow slowly, although the power of the martial god is useful to me, but don't make it too obvious, otherwise I will be caught as a research object if I am discovered. Chu Tiannan ran away, his heart pounding. Reminded, no, the host, really busy. On the other hand, Chu Tiannan's mouth twitched at the system's words. Is this system perfect? Ever since Chu Tiannan came to Martial God Island, the devouring system has been secretly absorbing the strong but invisible martial god aura on the island. This kind of fluctuation is useless to other warriors below the martial god level, and they cannot practice it. But for Chu Tiannan, it is true that God has given him nourishment, absorbing the power of the martial god. He can clearly feel the steady improvement of his strength. Thinking of this, Chu Tiannan couldn't help but purse his lips, secretly delighted. Hey, if this counts, I guess it won't be long before I can reach the peak martial ancestor. Thinking this way in his heart, Chu Tiannan was full of motivation. Of course he couldn't show it. So the so-called sweating was indeed deliberately pretended by him. After all, he had to act like it. You can still laugh? Unlaina raised her brows slightly. A cunning flashed across her beautiful eyes, and said with a smirk, "Then I'll give you more." As she said that, Unlaina released the pressure of the martial god and slowly pressed on Chu Tiannan's body. At this time, the latter felt that he was suddenly carrying the hill on his back. His eyes widened suddenly, and he almost staggered under his feet. Rookie 001, if you accidentally drop me, you'll have to run away again. Unlaina's words made Chu Tiannan's face change slightly. Boss, it shouldn't be so. Chu Tiannan murmured, but his heart was filled with joy. Squeeze me quickly. Swallow slowly. Don't let my boss notice it. The main thing is to swallow the martial arts power of those instructors. At this moment, the blue-eyed girl ran beside Chu Tiannan. Seeing Chu Tiannan's strenuous appearance, she bit her thin lips lightly and said softly, "Thank you. Give it to me. I'm almost recovered." "It's okay. You're the controller and a girl, and your strength is not as good as mine. Let me help you in this regard." Seeing this, Chu Tiannan shook his head slightly and smiled. Because of this being eliminated, how wronged are you? Were you kidding? Chu Tiannan couldn't return the iron box to the other party. Otherwise, how would he pretend? 002. I allow you to put your box here with 001. He likes to help others. Isn't he 001? Unlaina glanced at the blue-eyed girl lightly and immediately asked Chu Tiannan. Yes. Chu Tiannan shouted without hesitation. Sister, why do I feel that he wants to date you? As the younger brother of a girl with blue eyes, he looked at Chu Tiannan with some vigilance and said to himself, "Go." On the other hand, the blue-eyed girl blushed slightly, spat on her younger brother, and her beautiful eyes fell on Chu Tiannan, who was walking forward. For some reason, she has seen a lot of beautiful men and talented men, but none of them gave her the feeling that she had before her eyes. Very calm, very comfortable, that handsome face will not be compromised by oppression at all. On the contrary, he always looks so positive. The corners of his mouth are slightly raised, and his sunny smile is not afraid of any obstacles. Looking at it, the blue-eyed girl was a little dazed. When she realized it, her pretty face became even more rosy, and she immediately took out a blue handkerchief from herself. Gently wiped Chu Tiannan's sweat. Although shy, the blue-eyed girl didn't care. Unlaina ignored this warm scene. For her, she would not be jealous of a little girl. On the contrary, Unlaina was also very happy to see that the person she liked was so attractive. The man I like is just so good. The blue-eyed girl can be said to be the most beautiful and gentle girl in this team, and it is not an exaggeration to be called the goddess of the freshman team. When many people saw that he was wiping away Chu Tiannan's sweat at this time, their hearts felt so cool. Overreaching. The 003 rookie who ran first looked back without a trace, and felt disdainful when he saw Chu Tiannan, who was gradually following at the end of the first echelon. See how long you can last. He is a rookie 003, but he runs at the forefront of the team because he strives to either do nothing or do his best. He was also dressed in black, but he was different from Chu Tiannan. The aura of this person is extremely cold, as if he doesn't like the arrogance that penetrates into the soul when someone approaches him. He really has the strength and courage to stand out from the crowd, because he already has the strength of a quasi-war god, and he is only a hair away from the peak of the quasi-Valkyrie. But this trace has troubled the young man for a long time, especially when he saw the blue-eyed girl getting closer to Chu Tiannan. The flames of unhappiness in his heart suddenly ignited, and he, who was competitive, obviously would not give in to Chu Tiannan easily. Kindness? On the way forward, Chu Tiannan naturally noticed those cold eyes, and he followed the trend. I saw a code named 003's eyes were as cold as ice, and his lips moved slightly, as if to say, stay away from her. On the other hand, Chu Tiannan chose to ignore it, feeling weird. What's wrong? Help someone carry an iron box. What kind of vinegar do you eat? Could this be the legendary pull of hatred invisibly? Mountaintop. Everyone threw the iron box on the ground like exhausted dogs and collapsed on the ground one by one, breathing in fresh air. At this moment, they really felt as if they were being abused. They didn't participate in any special training at all. What kind of special training was this? Brother, you have great physical strength. Xianglai also followed, and when he saw the young man with the dark golden long sword standing on the edge of the mountain, he couldn't help but envy him. After finishing speaking, he lay down on the ground with a bang, showing big characters. No one would laugh at him, because at this time the entire rookie team is in this style. Brother, you're killing me. Lanju supported Xianglai behind his back, trying to make him feel more comfortable. But he ignored Xianglai's big and round figure, and the heavy Lanju grinned for a while. Is this the Martial God Island? Chu Tiannan looked down at the top of the mountain, and from here he could overlook the entire East Island scene. Although it is called an island, Chu Tiannan feels that it is much bigger than some base cities. This is the island where the God of War is located. It could be said that it is the island of God that gathers almost all the gods of war in this world. Chu Tiannan found himself in the Martial God Island, like a tiny drop in the ocean, inconspicuous at all. In the East Island, the buildings lined with tall pine trees are less conceited than in the urban areas, and fighter planes fly from the sky to enter the island from time to time. No one flies on the island at will, because this is the Iron Order of Valkyrie Island. No matter which warrior is strong, after entering the island, they are not allowed to fly in the air at will, which will affect the order. The cold young man had already reached the top of the mountain. When he looked at Chu Tiannan without much physical exertion, the coldness in his eyes became sharper. It's all about physical strength. Why give him 001? He clenched his fists slightly. His face was slightly livid and serious. Lu Jin, beside the stern young man, a young man with almost the same appearance appeared. They turn out to be twins. The latter is also a member of the rookie team, and also a genius among geniuses because he has a 004 armband on his arm. The most obvious feature of this person is the pair of brown eyes, which give people a sense of oppression and heaviness. As long as you see it, you can't help but sink into it. Inextricable. I hate this person. Lu Jin stared at Chu Tiannan's back with his cold eyes and said coldly. Lu Jin looked at the blue-eyed girl again, and the flames in his heart were blazing. Ever since he saw the girl for the first time, he fell in love with her deeply. There are plenty of opportunities, and the one who can have a last laugh is the king. Looking at Chu Tiannan with the handsome face of a young man with brown eyes, he said with a faint smile, "Except for that sword, I really don't think he is special. Lu Tong, help me keep an eye on it. I'm going to practice." After speaking, Lu Jin sat down in meditation and began to recover his strength. Seeing this, Lu Tong shook his head slightly, looked at Chu Tiannan, shook his head and smiled. "I really don't know where this kid came from, and he doesn't have any information. At this time, Chu Tiannan felt the baptism of the strong wind on the mountain, although the wind was strong and thick. But it couldn't affect him at all. Chu Tiannan just looked down on the entire East Island, without saying a word for a long time. "My name is Lin Yuro." At this moment, a soft voice came from behind Chu Tiannan. He followed the reputation and saw a blue-eyed girl with a 002 armband on her slender arms approaching gently. Chu Tiannan nodded with a smile. "Chu Tiannan, thank you this time." Lin Yuro looked at the starry eyes of the black-haired young man from such a close distance, and for some reason, her pretty face blushed slightly, and she stretched out her slender jade hands and said softly, "It's a small matter. Why does Miss Lin have to do this?" Chu Tiannan shook his head with a smile and immediately stretched out his hand to hold the boneless jade hand under the envious and jealous eyes of the surroundings. There was a heartbreaking sound all around, and there were some sharp eyes. If eyes could kill at this moment, Chu Tiannan might be riddled with holes. "I don't think I came at the right time," Lin Yuro said, feeling a little embarrassed seeing this. Hearing this, Chu Tiannan shrugged his shoulders, withdrew his hand, looked down at the East Island again, and said calmly, "It's just a bunch of boring guys. Don't worry about it." Comparing with a group of little guys, Chu Tiannan didn't have time to do these things. "Have you rested enough?" And Lina's beautiful eyes glanced at the rookies, and she shouted, making everyone stand up immediately. "When you've had enough rest, rush down the mountain. Rush back." Everyone's eyes widened. Obviously, they didn't expect this routine. "Rookies 020 to 025 don't need to run away. You have already been eliminated," and Lina said calmly, then looked at the astonished Chu Tiannan and the others, and said with a smile that was not a smile, "What? Want to quit? Brothers, go." At this moment, Xianglai jumped up and rushed down the mountain with the iron box, and the others did the same. "I don't need to bother you when I go down the mountain. Thank you." Lin Yuro smiled at Chu Tiannan. The smile was soft and sweet, and before the latter could reply, she quickly rushed down the mountain with the iron box. Chu Tiannan glanced at Lina's calm eyes, touched his nose immediately, and hurried down the mountain. And Lina looked at the slender figure with the dark golden long sword, and smiled secretly in her heart. "Humph, don't worry, there's more fun to come. Do you know why you're asked to exercise your physical fitness so much?" And Lina said calmly as she walked back and forth among the rookie team in the empty field. The remaining 20 young men and women all looked at each other, but no one made a sound. "I'm surprised, really surprised." And Lina seemed to be self-serving, and then her beautiful eyes fell on Xianglai. But Xianglai was a little at a loss. He didn't know why he, a genius with mid-level strength, would be targeted by others. "If you're the controller, if you're the gunner, I won't say anything." As she spoke, Lina shook her head slightly, and her beautiful eyes suddenly sharpened, and she kicked Xianglai away with a kick. I saw a burly figure flying out like a cannonball, and everyone, including Chu Tiannan, twitched violently in their hearts. This is too cruel. As a power fighter, is that much power? And Lina shouted coldly, suppressing the power of the Valkyrie, making everyone feel infinite pressure. The purpose of exercising your physical fitness is to improve your survival rate in future battles. See you all looking like you are about to die. Every word in Lina's words hit everyone's hearts hard. It was surprising that no one was dissatisfied or refuted this time. Chu Tiannan chose to remain silent. Even Lin Yuro, Lu Jin, Lu Tong, and others, who are quasi-martial gods, lost their previous anger. It seems that Lina has conquered everyone in a short period of time. What are you looking at? Take your equipment and continue to capture the previous mountaintop. And Lina's eyes flashed an imperceptible cunning, and she calmly said under the stunned gaze, "Still, do you want to rush back?" Lan Ju was stunned for a moment. His eyes widened, and he didn't have time to speak, but was directly pulled out by Chu Tiannan. Lin Yuro frowned immediately when she heard the words. This back and forth made her exhausted, and part of it was Chu Tiannan who helped her. "It's obviously too much to do again. 002, let me help you." This time Lu Jin came directly to the former, wanted to pick up his iron box. But he found that with the 2 iron boxes, even Lu Jin's expression turned ugly instantly. He can't even carry 2 iron boxes. The scene was once extremely embarrassing. If you don't want to be eliminated, just do what the boss says. Chu Tiannan passed Lin Yuro, picked up her iron box, and rushed out first. As for Lu Jin, it was directly ignored. Thank you for your kindness, 003. Lin Yuro smiled softly at Lu Jin and followed behind Chu Tiannan. Don't pretend to be dead. If you don't want to be eliminated, get up quickly. The tall and fit girl directly picked up Xiong Lai, and under her urging, Xiong Lai obediently rushed to the top of the mountain. This guy. Lu Jin clenched his fists and his face was extremely gloomy. His gloomy eyes were full of killing intent. If this was in the catastrophe zone, Lu Jin, would definitely rush to fight Chu Tiannan. It's just a simple creature with great power. Let me see how you deal with it. Lu Jin hid his emotions, picked up the iron box, and rushed to the top of the mountain. Pung pung. This is the sound of skill bombardment continuously released by the instructor team, and among these single logs, Chu Tiannan and many other young people are standing on the single log. One by one, they kept flashing back and forth at an extremely fast speed, but the only criterion was not to drop the single stake. Otherwise, it is the result of elimination, because 2 unlucky ones have already been eliminated. Oh my God, I train my physical fitness in the first half of the month, and train my nervous response in the second half of the month. I'm about to collapse, Xiong Lai murmured. He is now operating his body functions mechanically, and the high-intensity special training for more than 20 days is almost useless for Xiong Lai. Brother, hold on. You'll be liberated in a few days. Lanju stuck out his tongue out of exhaustion at this time, and couldn't stop being tired. But elder brother doesn't look tired at all, and there are those quasi-martial gods. Xiong Lai was aggrieved at this time, looking at Chu Tiannan, Lin Yuro, and others. I feel so out of balance. Chu Tiannan kept skimming the wooden stakes, and with his extremely strong soul, he naturally wouldn't stumble on them. Swallowing has been almost a month, and finally broke through. Chu Tiannan felt that after the swallowing system was transformed, he absorbed a steady stream of martial god's power, which had already promoted him to the peak of Wuzong, and the corners of his mouth slightly lifted. Very good. One step closer to the Valkyrie class. Rookie 001. When you were carrying out the mission, you saw that the military industry was about to be obtained, but you were recalled by the Alliance. What would you do? Unlaina looked at the wooden pile and shouted at Chu Tiannan. 1. After you choose to complete the task, you can return to the Alliance. 2nd, put down the task in hand and return to the Alliance immediately. I'll choose to, Chu Tiannan said in a loud voice, flashing the moving stakes again and again. Tell me your reason for choosing to. Unlaina's voice was steady, and an imperceptible color flashed in her bright eyes. Unless there is an emergency, the Alliance will not desperately recall. So I choose to. Very good. 001 continues training. Rookie number 015. Unlaina said at this time, focusing on the beautiful figure with blue eyes flashing calmly on the wooden pile. Suppose your teammate is injured, but you don't know your teammate. Faced with a large number of monsters attacking, how would you choose? The burly girl dodged on the wooden stake in a panic and replied, that depends on who it is. What if this person is 014? Unlaina changed the subject, causing Xiong Lai's body to shake slightly, and he couldn't help but look at the 015 girl. Seeing that girl 015 hesitated for half a second, she asked aloud, what does the boss want to ask? Seeing this, Unlaina gave 2 slender jade fingers and said, 1. Choose to give up your teammates, then save yourself, and finally avenge your teammates. 2nd, choose to protect your teammates, even though you may die. I choose to. Faced with the choice, girl 015 chose the second one without hesitation, which made Xiong Lai very moved. Li Qianqian, thank you. If it wasn't for the special training period, Xiong Lai couldn't help but want to hug each other right now. Get out, I'm not here for you. Li Qianqian was full of disgust at this moment. If she hadn't fallen off the wooden pile and was eliminated, she really wanted to kick Xiong Lai out, This guy who is like brown sugar is really difficult to deal with. 015. Tell me your reason. Unlaina asked Li Qianqian regardless of their relationship. It's fine for me to tell you the reason, but can the chief instructor promise me one thing? Li Qianqian quickly glanced at the wooden stake under her feet and replied, What's the matter? Anlina asked. At this time, Li Qianqian stopped, stared at Xiongli viciously, and shouted, Let this damn guy stay away from my mother. Ha! Laughter erupted all around. Chu Tiannan almost laughed out loud, but he insisted on holding it back. 017 passed, 019 eliminated. 009 eliminated. 012, 013 eliminated. The 1-month devil training made everyone painful and happy. Pain is a 24-hour nonstop practice training. Practice. The good news is that the physical fitness of the entire team has been greatly improved, and even Lan Zhu can easily rush to the top of the mountain with an iron box. See God Island, East Island Plaza. This is the venue to welcome Chu Tiannan and others on the first day. Everything is so familiar and memorable, but there were 50 people when they came before. Now there are only 10 people left. Fortunately, all 3 of Chu Tiannan, Xiongli, and Lan Zhu stayed. At the beginning, Lan Zhu was the most vulnerable, but later he and Xiongli broke through to the peak of Wuzong. The combat power has skyrocketed a lot in an instant, and Lan Zhu is equivalent to the team's #1 gunner in terms of long range. Of course, he was the only gunner in the entire rookie team of 10. Although Xiongli is still far from the Quasi-War God, he can remain invincible in the hands of the Quasi-War God. His strong defensive physique really made him not afraid of fighting at the same level. As for Chu Tiannan, it should be the fastest promotion among all the teams. Of course, others will not know this. Only Chu Tiannan knows this. Even Enlai couldn't see through the other party, and secretly guessed Chu Tiannan's real strength in her heart. A month of special training has left our rookie team with 10 members. It can be said that they are the most elite 10 members. At this time, Enlaina's beautiful eyes swept over everyone as she nodded slightly when she felt the new look of everyone. Congratulations on completing the second test. You can cheer. Oi, Qianqian, did you hear that? We seem to have succeeded. At this moment, Xiongli was the most excited. He ignored the burly girl who slapped him on the head and hugged her directly. Tiannan, we succeeded. Lin Yuro waved her small fist excitedly at this moment, and then sighed softly. Unfortunately, my brother failed. Chu Tiannan stood there smiling and said, Your brother will be proud of you. Squeak. There were people cheering on one side, but on the other side there was naturally gnashing of teeth. Lu Jin looked at Chu Tiannan, who was chatting very closely with Lin Yuro, and the fire of jealousy in his heart was blazing. Have you been happy? Enlaina coughed lightly, and the excited voices suddenly disappeared. Enlaina's beautiful eyes swept towards the crowd, and then she said slowly under the gaze of the crowd with slightly changed faces, Everyone rest for the night. We will gather here tomorrow for the 3rd phase of the test. Night is always so quiet. The moonlight sheds a silver veil, adding a touch of silver mystery to the entire Valkyrie Island. Chu Tiannan was resting in his own independent forest hut, which could be said to be his first real rest from here. After taking a comfortable shower, Chu Tiannan put his hands behind his head and immediately laid down on the bed leisurely. The starry sky at night is the most beautiful. Chu Tiannan liked the night very much because it could calm him down, and the starry eyes flickered again and again as if a mysterious picture appeared in the night sky. It was a girl in a yellow dress. Her slender and perfect figure was shown in the outline of the belt. Every time Chu Tiannan thought of this, the corners of Chu Tiannan's mouth subconsciously lifted slightly. I don't know how she is doing. Thinking in his heart, Chu Tiannan directly called out the name he was thinking of from the bracelet. Doodle. The call was dialed, but there was no answer there. Chu Tiannan shook his head slightly and sighed. I guess there is something wrong. Forget it. Just leave a message. Ding dong. At the same time as Chu Tiannan left a message, the doorbell rang suddenly, and the young man subconsciously put down his hands and asked, Who? Ding dong. However, the doorbell still rang, and there was no reply to Chu Tiannan's previous words, which made the latter slightly suspicious. The power of the soul quietly spread out to investigate. Chu Tiannan had a strange expression on his face and immediately got out of bed and walked over. The door opened. Chu Tiannan looked at Qianying standing in front of him and said with a smile, "Boss, call out." In the next moment, the long silver umbrella froze against the neck of the young man in black against the sharp wind. The girl with the fiery figure had a frosty face and said calmly, "I'll give you another chance." Feeling the cold thousand-chance umbrella around his neck, Chu Tiannan said helplessly, "Nanana." That's right." Hearing this, Enlina immediately let go of her brows and hugged Chu Tiannan directly. "I've wronged you a little this month. You won't blame me for training you like this?" Enlina asked cautiously. "I did it for your own good." In her spare time, only when Enlina and Chu Tiannan were alone would she show her little daughter attitude. "What are you talking about?" Chu Tiannan laughed when he heard this and said, "Do you think I'm such a stingy person? Hee hee. I knew you were the best." Enlina was like a happy little girlfriend, swinging around Chu Tiannan's arm. If there are other Valkyries passing by at this time, seeing Enlina still has such a side, it is really more novel than the destruction of the world. A generation of glamorous and unparalleled Valkyries of thousand machines actually has such a young daughter's attitude? "Nana, it's not good for you. Hold on." In the quiet night, Chu Tiannan sat on the roof looking up at the starry sky, and on his shoulder was a girl as docile as a kitten as a pillow. The two of them didn't exchange much words. Chu Tiannan didn't want to say anything more at this time, and sighed secretly in his heart. "Boss, I really don't want to do this, but why should you?" Chu Tiannan really wanted to persuade the other party, but Enlina seemed to have recognized this deadly truth. She couldn't say anything, and in the end, even he had to give up. "Forget it. As long as you don't reach the last step, let her go." Chu Tiannan thought that as long as he could really keep Luo Air by his side, maybe Enlina would really give up. 001 cabin. 001 cabin. Here. At this moment, a beautiful figure with blue eyes suddenly appeared in the forest path. The girl's beautiful eyes fell on the hut in the forest where Chu Tiannan was. Her pretty face was slightly red, and she was holding a box of handmade pastries in her little hand. Ding dong. She walked to the door of the hut with lotus steps and rang the doorbell, but the crisp ringing of the doorbell made the young beauty on the roof immediately quiet down. In. Chu Tiannan quietly followed the voice, saw the familiar blue-eyed girl, raised her eyebrows slightly, and said inwardly, "Why is she here?" You're so good at flirting, you even dare to recruit rookie 002. Seeing this, Enlina chuckled, but maybe her voice was a little loud. Chu Tiannan hurriedly covered her mouth. "Aren't you here?" Lin Yuro frowned slightly when she saw this. She tapped her toes and looked into the room, and found that there was no one inside, so she carefully placed the pastry at the door, smiled softly, and left. Seeing Lin Yuro leave completely, Chu Tiannan couldn't help but sighed speechlessly, while Enlina looked at the former with her cheeks on her cheeks with interest, and said "Congratulations to Lord Chu for mentioning a cute girl again. You mock me too." Hearing this, Chu Tiannan smiled helplessly. On the other hand, Enlina suddenly kissed the former and left like a breeze. Before leaving, he did not forget to leave a word, which made Chu Tiannan, who was touching his face, suddenly turn dark. "I'll keep it a secret for you, but the price is to let me kiss you. You're doing well. Just pretend that I haven't been here today. I didn't see anything." Chu Tiannan looked towards the direction where Enlina disappeared, and subconsciously touched the face that was surprised with his right hand. The young man sighed slightly. He didn't say much, and immediately jumped out of the wooden house calmly. Looking at the delicate snack box at the door, Chu Tiannan's heart twitched, and he picked it up slowly, with a hint of helplessness in his eyes. Chu Tiannan walked into the room, looked at the post-it notes on the box. His face gradually became embarrassing. "Thank you for your care these days. This is a pastry I made myself. I hope it can meet your taste, Lin Yuro." "Oh, what a crime." Chu Tiannan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He was just helping others unconsciously, which is great now. This is obviously a little bit wrong. Forget it. The soldiers came to block the water and cover it with soil. I don't believe that there is still no road in front of the driveway. Thinking this way in his heart, Chu Tiannan went straight back to his bed and began to practice. The most important thing for him now is to become a Valkyrie as quickly as possible. In this case, Chu Tiannan would have the confidence to go to Luo Air. After all, for Chu Tiannan, the family behind Luo Air is very powerful, and his subconscious mind tells him that if he doesn't have the martial god level, he needs to keep a low profile for the time being. Once I break through to the Valkyrie level, I will at least have the ability to protect myself in the face of someone like the killing Valkyrie. After this month of continuous absorption, Chu Tiannan discovered that the power of the martial god that was plundered by the devouring system could be directly absorbed into the body after being reconciled. And this reconciled Valkyrie power is really the strongest nourishment, bar none. I feel like I'm about to advance to the quasi-war god level. I'm really looking forward to it. Chu Tiannan clenched his right fist slightly. At this time, there are streams of air around his body, which are light yellow air, like dark yellow air, entering and exiting the body of the young man in black. With every movement of the martial god's power, Chu Tiannan's face flickered. The strands of mysterious and yellow energy that seemed to be miraculous were constantly neutralizing the power in Chu Tiannan's body. If Enlai Na was still there at this time, you will definitely recognize it instantly. This seemingly pale, yellow, mysterious yellow aura is the power of the Valkyrie. Moreover, it is the purest martial god power. Chu Tiannan does not have the martial god level, but has the martial god power. All this will be attributed to the devouring system. If it hadn't been able to absorb, devour, and plunder, Chu Tiannan's growth would not have been so fast. The current Chu Tiannan is like a huge container. As long as he has enough strength, he can progress naturally. There are no bottlenecks at all. At night, in the cabin of 001, a light yellow atmosphere floats around, but the outside is quiet. Even if someone passing by sees it, they won't notice it, because the devouring system directly releases an invisible barrier to block everything. The next day, the sun was still high. The sea breeze roared past, and today's wind was stronger than any other day in this month. Because of this day, it is destined to be no ordinary day. From now on, at the East Island Square on Martial God Island, the 10 candidates of the rookie team all stand at attention and straddle, waiting for the arrival of a new test. Starting from the first place on the left, it is the new arrangement of rookie code names. Chu Tiannan has always been number 001 from the beginning to the end and has not changed. And standing beside him was still that gentle girl like water, Lin Euro. 003 and 004 are naturally Lu Jin and Lu Tong. But 005 has become Li Qianqian, 006 is Lan Ju, and 007 is Xiong Lai. There are also 3 candidates who are not familiar with each other. Judging from everyone's balanced and strong atmosphere, there is an illusion that they are evenly matched. Of course, Chu Tiannan was undoubtedly the calmest because in his eyes, it is no longer limited to the battle between rookies. Even now, he feels the cold stare from Lu Jin, and his starry eyes are as still water. Can't afford the slightest disturbance. Just wait. It's time to see the real chapter. Lu Jin clenched his fists slightly. His eyes were cold, and he sneered in his heart. The 001 position belongs to me. He hated that the person he liked had come so close to Chu Tiannan, so he naturally had to find a way to compare him. After all, he has coveted the number 001 for a long time. Hey, you're all here early, everyone. At this time, only the Raptor Martial God was greeted by the crowd. The latter smiled and said, "Relax, the chief instructor and the others are all in the Central Island Square. Come with me, everyone. The 3rd stage of the test has begun." Isn't the 3rd stage of the test going on here? Xiong Lai scratched his head and couldn't help asking. The others also took advantage of the situation to look at the Raptor Valkyrie. Everyone is curious about the so-called 3rd stage test. Everyone is a genius among geniuses and an elite among elites. Naturally full of confidence and fighting spirit. I'll understand when you get to Central Island. All you need to do now is to recharge your batteries. Raptor Valkyrie smiled meaningfully. He glanced at the 10 rookies and was very satisfied. After this month of special devil training, everyone's growth is obvious to all. Now the average combat power of Chu Tiannan and others is at the peak level of Wuzong. Compared with some old students who are a little bit uncompromising, this class has indeed produced several geniuses. The growth rate of these newcomers has exceeded the expectations of the Huameng District Instructor Team, and the results can be described as considerable. Inside the armored car. At this time, everyone closed their eyes and meditated, except the Raptor Valkyrie, who sat leisurely in the car and read a magazine. I'm going. These 6 Lei Lin warfare cheats actually cost me 200 billion. Chu Tiannan looked at the balance of Earth coins in the upper right corner of the warrior's shop and sighed inwardly. Poor. Chu Tiannan took another look at the devouring store in the sea of soul consciousness and looked at the dazzling variety of items, but he couldn't exchange or activate them. I feel itchy looking at this. How can I pay back the devouring points I owe? Chu Tiannan rubbed his chin with his right hand, thinking for a long time. He found that even if it was one of the volumes of Lei Lin's tactics bought with money, the devouring system didn't even read it, saying that it was not worth even a devour point. That is a peerless cheat book. How many geniuses on Earth have dreamed of peerless skills, but they are judged as garbage by the devouring system? This is so embarrassing. While Chu Tiannan was thinking, the martial god of Raptor who was sitting on the other side was also staring at the former quietly, feeling equally puzzled. Everyone has improved significantly this month, but this kid seems to be standing still, which is not good for him. Thinking of this, martial god of Raptor frowned slightly. The codename 001 was not given casually. It was decided after discussions and votes by all the instructors. And although this 001 codename is a rookie number, its meaning is very important. Because this is the strongest newcomer trained by the representative instructor team. Chu Tiannan is codenamed 001, but he will occupy the most dazzling position in the next postgraduate entrance examination. Now, Chu Tiannan seems to be standing still, while the others have significantly improved in strength. The one who has made the fastest progress is Lu Jin, who has already half-stepped to the level of a warrior. He was the one who dissatisfied with Chu Tiannan the most, and he was very worried about the 001 codename. I've already talked to the boss about this, but I was rejected. Thinking of yesterday's words, Raptor Valkyrie shook his head slightly. Last night, Anlaina faced the sea, with the sea breeze blowing on her pretty face, and said softly, Chu Tiannan is the well-deserved number 1 among the newcomers. Just watch it. You can't go wrong. I don't know where the boss's self-confidence comes from. If it wasn't for Anlaina's strength and high status, it would be Raptor and others for the honor of the instructor team. They also began to waver in their hearts, thinking of changing Chu Tiannan, who had made little progress this month, to the position of 003. However, Anlaina exerted pressure, and no one dared to go against the chief instructor's wishes, so the matter was left alone. Forget it. If this kid fails to meet the requirements, he will be eliminated against the geniuses in other districts. The most embarrassing thing will be the boss himself. Thinking of this, Raptor stopped thinking about other things and closed his eyes slightly. Also started to rejuvenate. It seems that the Raptor instructor doesn't like me. Although Chu Tiannan was cultivating with his eyes closed, but with his extremely strong soul, he naturally felt that the other party was paying attention to him, and secretly smiled in his heart. It seems that I can't be too low-key. Otherwise, wouldn't I be looked down upon? Boom! With the end of the last turbulence, the armored vehicle stopped immediately. The door opened, and everyone got out of the vehicle. This is... When Chu Tiannan saw the scene in front of him, even his character couldn't help being shocked. I'll go. Such a big fighting arena. It's too big. Why do we come here? At this time, not only Chu Tiannan was surprised, but the other geniuses who came one after another were shocked by the scene in front of them. In front of the rookie team, There are mountains shrouded in clouds and mists. The middle of the mountains seems to be split by a magic axe, and a line of cliffs exudes a deep sense of oppression. In front of the cliff, there is a huge circular building, which looks like a ring from a bird's eye view. In the center of the ring is a field formed by a huge square, the area of which is enough to swallow several football fields. And at the front door of the ring-shaped building, there are 3 large characters written magnificent and magnificent. Fighting field. At this time, there were 4 teams standing at the entrance of the fighting arena building. These 4 teams were not simple, because this martial arts arena can be said to be in front of the cliff at the mouth of the wind, and the strong wind passed by, but it didn't disturb these people at all. On the contrary, they stood in 4 groups, and Chu Tiannan and others were astonished by the power that seemed to spread. They all have the power of the martial god. Chu Tiannan was shocked when he noticed that every team had the power of the martial god. This is composed of all warriors. If this lineup goes out, maybe even 009 Tian Hai can walk sideways, right? Let's go. This is the team of instructors from the 4 major regions. Our Huaming region is over there. Raptor Valkyrie saw many surprised heads, immediately laughed, and led everyone towards one of the teams. Report to the chief instructor. The Raptor said loudly when 10 people from Chu Tiannan arrived in front of a team of 8 martial gods. The top 10 of the rookie team in the Huaming district have been brought in, and there should be 10 people, and there are actually 10 people. Please instruct. Hearing this, the slender girl with a hot figure nodded slightly and immediately gave a military salute and said loudly, "Relax." Yes. Raptor Valkyrie withdrew Li Bai's hand. He turned around and yelled at the 10 rookies who also straightened their backs. Stand behind the instructor team and don't move around. Hearing this, the 10 members of Chu Tiannan straddled and stood up solemnly, and they stood behind the Huaming district instructor team without saying a word. And Enlina also led her instructors to stand astride, because next there will be other rookie teams coming. Hulong, accompanying the 2 armored vehicles to the arena one after another, those who got off the vehicle were naturally also young girls who were similar in age to Chu Tiannan and others. The man is tall and the woman is slender and enchanting, but they all have blonde or brown hair, blue and reddish-brown eyes. Their faces are full of confident smiles at this time. Even in such a majestic time, they can still talk and laugh happily. Oh, people who look at the Huaming district are always the first to see how boring. Don't talk nonsense. They're the strictest and our biggest competitors. It doesn't matter. The fight is over. What they speak is not Chinese, but the language of their own country. Chu Tiannan looked at this group of people without any disturbance in his heart, but there was no underestimation in his eyes, because he unexpectedly felt a trace of special fluctuation and pressure from the 20 people who came over there. It seems that this group of people is not simple. It may be a bit troublesome to stand out from the crowd. Although Chu Tiannan thought this way in his heart, there was no fluctuation in Chu Tiannan's star pupils. On the contrary, it is full of perseverance, which is a kind of courageous spirit called the strong. It's the geniuses of the American League and the European Union. At that time, Lin Yuro whispered in Chu Tiannan, "According to my senior sister, among our 4 major regions, the Baiming region is at the bottom, the European Union region is average, and the most competitive with us is the American League region. The last time our 001 genius lost to the American League because of a defeat and was taken first by others. As Lin Yuro was born and raised in the Chinese nation of the Chinese League, she naturally didn't have the slightest liking for the fighters of the American League. Because the American Alliance also did not take the Huaming in its eyes, there was already competition between the 2 sides. The relationship is naturally a little tense. Meimeng." Chu Tiannan nodded slightly. Having a brief understanding in his heart, his eyes swept forward, and the next second his eyes became sharper. Because at this moment, Chu Tiannan found a pair of indifferent eyes staring at him. So he took advantage of the situation to look. I saw that the owner of those eyes also had the armband of the Martial God Alliance on the sleeve of his clothes. The armband has the words 001. Have you been targeted? Chu Tiannan's face was calm, and he stared at the past intently. In the distance, there was a well-proportioned black man looking at him. Those deep brown eyes were like the sea of stars. But anyone who is solidified can't help but sink into it, and it is difficult to break free. At this moment, Chu Tiannan found that the scene around him changed rapidly, and the warriors around him disappeared, replaced by a starry vortex. The black hole-like vortex was constantly tearing at Chu Tiannan, trying to pull him into the blackest abyss. Break! With Chu Tiannan's soft shout in his heart, tiny cracks began to appear in the surrounding illusion, which spread rapidly and finally shattered and exploded. Illusionist. Because of his extremely strong soul power, Chu Tiannan broke free from the illusion created by the other party in an instant and was slightly surprised in his heart. Illusionist is a relatively special profession among warriors because it is so special and because this profession has the highest requirements for the soul. Only when the strength of the soul is maximized, the soul attack will have stronger lethality. The so-called illusion is a powerful soul attack. The stronger Chu Tiannan is, the more he knows about this aspect. This kind of occupation can be said to be quite a headache for the enemy once it appears on the battlefield. In addition to strength fighters, illusionists and controllers also coexist and are listed as one of the must-kill lists. The former illusion is invincible, making people trapped in it unable to struggle. The latter is extremely capable of killing, but the three armies are so handsome. Seeing the situation, Chu Tiannan was definitely coming and not going in decently. His starry eyes narrowed slightly, and an invisible coercion quietly concealed from everyone. It landed on the black youth with a bang. Fake! The black young man was surprised when he saw the situation. He wanted to resist, but found that he was a step too late, although he resisted Chu Tiannan's invisible coercion. But at this moment, his chi and blood surged, and the black man used a full -% of his own strength to forcefully suppress it. He looked at Chu Tiannan coldly, with a grin on the corner of his mouth. It seems to say that I look forward to it. Chu Tiannan smiled faintly at this, moved his mouth slightly, and replied silently. I'm looking forward to it too. I didn't expect 0-0, one of the American League, to be an illusionist. When the Raptor Valkyrie and others saw the black youth, they were all secretly shocked. They were well informed, and they obviously felt a little pressure, which was not the pressure felt by the black young man. It's the pressure on the three words illusionist. After all, a powerful illusionist is definitely a nightmare for all powerful warriors, even those who control them. Once hit by the illusionist and unable to break free from the illusion, it would represent an infinite cycle of death. Maybe I am in an illusion, but I don't know that everything is illusory until the person who is subjected to the illusion dies. Of course, although illusionists are strong, they are not invincible, because the application of illusions requires a lot of soul power, so illusionists must concentrate on releasing illusions. Once it is disturbed, or if the illusionist cannot be concentrated, then the illusion will naturally be impossible to perform. Once the illusionist is approached, there's only one ending: death. The advantages are so powerful, but the disadvantages are also quite fatal and obvious. Illusionists are just illusionists, not invincible. And Laina's beautiful eyes fell on 001, a rookie team in the American League, and she said calmly, "We have a great chance of competing for the first place." Now, Laina dare not say that the teams in the China League can 100% compete for the first place. After all, there's already an illusionist in the United League. The people from Baiming District hadn't arrived yet, but Laina knew it well and secretly looked forward to it. I really don't know. If Tiannan fights with that person, who will lose and who will win? Thinking this way in my heart, I only heard Hulong's voice rolling over, and everyone looked forward. The armored vehicle engraved with Baiming District arrived last, including Chu Tiannan, and everyone in the Huaming District rookie team looked curiously. The door of the armored car opened slowly, and there seemed to be a bright light inside, and the next second, the bright and shining owner slowly got out of the car. The perfect and slender figure in yellow clothes slowly walked out of the armored vehicle, and the eyes of many geniuses stared straight. Even the black illusionist couldn't help but open his mouth slightly. Obviously, they have never seen such a beautiful figure like a cold fire in summer, soft and beautiful, but repulsive. What's the situation? Seeing this, only Chu Tiannan smiled wryly, looked at Enlai and muttered, "Boss, did you already know?" Looking at the beautiful figure in yellow clothes, who was overwhelmed by the city and the country, Chu Tiannan's eyes were filled with joy in addition to being astonished. It seems that as a genius of the 100 Families Alliance, she will naturally be absorbed into the Valkyrie Island. Why didn't I think of this? Thinking that he had also come to marshal God Island with his soul lingering in his dreams, Chu Tiannan felt excited at this moment. If it weren't for the seriousness of the scene now, he would have wanted to call out to the other party. "I'll go, this girl is so beautiful," Lanju murmured. His eyes fell on that pretty fair face, and he refused to move away. Even Lin Yuro felt a little envy in her heart when she saw the perfect slender figure presented under the restraint of the yellow clothes. With the arrival of the beautiful figure in yellow, the whole venue seemed warm and bright. She was so dazzling. With a frown and a smile, it seems that this is in the sky, and there is no meaning of existence in the world. There is no way to make people not pay attention, and even many instructors can't help but sigh inwardly when they see this. This little girl belongs to my Huameng, or my own nation is pleasing to the eye. The raptor martial god smiled, and the other male Valkyrie all nodded. Obviously agree with the former words. A bunch of old perverts. Raging Fire Valkyrie snorted coldly upon seeing this, making Raptor and the others secretly smile wryly. Looking at the astonished expressions around him, Chu Tiannan secretly smiled in his heart, because the girl in his heart is so outstanding. Sensing the attention of many eyes, Huang Yiqianing's pretty face blushed slightly, causing the surrounding grasses to bend down. Her bright eyes darted towards the Huameng area, as if she was looking for something. Could he be looking at me? Lu Jin, who originally liked Lin Yuro, felt his heart pounding when he noticed those bright eyes looking at her. He had never seen such a beautiful girl, pure, agile, elegant, with a hint of coldness. It's like a warm torch in winter, warming people's hearts. Is she looking at me? At this time, the rookie team in the Huameng district exploded, and the boys were all guessing, but the star-eyed young man with the dark golden long sword stood calmly. But he was smiling, with a hint of expectation and longing in his smile, as if he had found a figure he was looking for. When Huang Yi's bright eyes fell on Chu Tiannan, he smiled sweetly. Silence. Accompanied by the charming smile of the girl in yellow, the strong wind that was howling around suddenly weakened a lot, as if afraid of destroying such a beautiful picture. All the young geniuses followed the gaze cast by Huang Yiqianing, including many instructors. It all fell on Chu Tiannan. Too bad something is going to happen. This scene was so sweet and warm, but because it was too eye-catching, it attracted all eyes. Chu Tiannan's heart twitched a little at this moment. There was a trace of helplessness in the smile, and a trace of speechlessness. Huang Yiqianing's thin lips slightly turned up. Her bright eyes flashed a hint of cunning. She immediately moved away from Chu Tiannan's body and led the geniuses from Baimeng District to the instructor team, where they were. "Brother, why do I feel that girl was looking at you just now?" Xiongli scratched his head slightly and couldn't help asking. "Yeah, big brother, I seen I found out too. Do you know that girl?" Lanju said at this time, ignoring Chu Tiannan, who had rolled his eyes. "If you two don't speak, no one will treat you as dumb." Chu Tiannan gritted his teeth, but the eyes of the surroundings immediately turned to him. Some are surprised, some are gloomy, some are envious, and some have a different meaning. At this time, Lu Jin's eyes were gloomy and terrifying. He clenched his fists slightly, and the fire of jealousy in his heart was raging. Why? Why are all the pretty girls around him? Lu Jin roared in his heart. As a 19-year-old quasi-warrior genius, he was 100 dissatisfied. Even Lu Tong was frowning at this moment. "Is she your friend?" Lin Yuro also realized something was wrong at this time. Her pretty face was slightly red, and she couldn't help asking softly. The voice is soft and beautiful, but there's a hint of uneasiness in it. She's my friend, my best friend. Chu Tiannan said slowly with a firm voice and calm eyes. Hearing the other party's answer, Lan Ju, Xiong and others immediately cast envious glances. Lu Jin's face was so gloomy that he could drip water, but when Lin Yuro heard the words, a trace of disappointment flashed across her beautiful eyes, and she immediately smiled softly. Oh, so she's pretty. She is very pretty. She's the most beautiful girl I have ever seen. Chu Tiannan nodded and sighed inwardly. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt you. Is everyone here? At this moment, a rustling voice sounded. At that time, everyone turned their heads and saw three old men in white robes slowly walking down the steps of the fighting arena, and the four major regional instructor teams saluted at the same time and said respectfully, "Meet the three congressmen. Meet the three congressmen." Accompanied by the salutes of all the instructors, the geniuses of the remaining four major regions hurriedly saluted and said. Chu Tiannan's eyes moved up slightly, and he saw three old figures in white robes slowly walking down the steps of the arena. Such a strong breath is restrained, I can't feel it at all. Chu Tiannan could clearly see the three white-robed old men walking slowly, but he couldn't detect any fluctuations in the breath of the other party. Even the unique power of a martial god seems to have been silenced on their bodies. No waves at all. It seems that to be called a member of parliament must have some advantages. Thinking in his heart, Chu Tiannan was looking forward to Valkyrie Island even more. Return of the counselor, the talent teams from the four major regions have been assembled. Please give instructions. At this time, the four chief officers, including Enlai Na, took a step forward and said in a respectful voice. Seeing that those powerful and respected chief instructors were respectful when facing the three old men at this time, all the geniuses immediately paid attention to it. Everyone is a smart person, an existence that can be respected by the Valkyrie. How can it be an ordinary person? Hearing this, the three old men nodded slightly. The one in the middle stretched out his big thin hand to support his long white beard, and his clear eyes scanned everything below. Even though he looked over 60 years old, those clear pupils exuded amazing vitality. Amazing. Call. A glance appeared, like a breeze blowing, making all the young girls feel invisible pressure. This. After Chu Tiannan felt the invisible pressure, he was startled immediately. Staring at him with his starry eyes, he saw the old man sweeping his eyes. Staring at him right now, Chu Tiannan felt that his body was in the eyes of the other party, as if nothing could be hidden, as if it existed transparently, without any secrets at all. When the bearded old man looked at Chu Tiannan, he was slightly surprised, but he didn't say much. If that's the case, then follow the old rules. At this time, an old man with a hooked nose beside him finished speaking, and the figures of the three old men swept away. It just disappeared in place, obviously going back. Hearing this, the four chief instructors saluted to show their acceptance. You will enter the fighting arena in a while, and the codename of your armbands will be your lottery numbers. I will go to draw lots in a while. Enlai walked back, looked at Chu Tiannan and 10 people with her beautiful eyes, and said, I don't want to draw a lottery for my own battle. As for who can stay, it depends on personal nature. The top 10 who win the battle will stay and enter the specialized unit, and the 10 to 20 will enter the special forces. Elite battalion, the rest. A wisp of elimination. Listening to Enlaina's battle rules, although simple, it made Chu Tiannan, Lin Yuro, and others hold their breath. The 40 people are all geniuses among geniuses, but in this battle, only half of them are left, and the elimination rate is as high as half. This will be the toughest battle for all of them. If you win, you will reach the sky in one step. If you lose, you will be mediocre for half your life. Including Chu Tiannan, all the geniuses at this time are gearing up and eager to try. It will be exciting to fight like this. Chu Tiannan felt the blood in his body boiling. He liked this kind of life, full of challenges. Only under adversity can we grow more rapidly. Tiannan, be careful with your friend in the Maiming district this time. Lin Yuro was worthy of being a leader in the Dongwu Pavilion. After receiving some messages on the bracelet, she informed the other party. Thank you for your information. I will pay attention to it. Hearing this, Chu Tiannan smiled and nodded. His sunny smile made the blue-eyed girl's pretty face slightly shy, and immediately waved her small fists and said seriously, Come on, stay. Come on, stay. Chu Tiannan also nodded earnestly. His eyes fell on Xiong Lai and Lan Ju, and he nodded indistinctly. The latter also indicated that there was no problem. The lottery result is out. As Lai Na returned, everyone's eyes fell on her, and the geniuses held their breath. First match, Huaming District 001. Laina frowned slightly, obviously dissatisfied with her lottery, and said immediately, Fight against Huaming District 003. Fight against 003. Hearing this, everyone in the Huaming District focused on Chu Tiannan. Even Chu Tiannan didn't expect that it would be his turn in the first battle, and he would still fight against Lu Jin and his team. Very good. When Lu Jin heard about the match against Chu Tiannan, he didn't have any dissatisfaction in his heart. On the contrary, he was very grateful to Lai Na, thanking Lai Na for giving him such a chance, allowing him to trample on this Chu Tiannan in front of Lin Yuro. Go get ready. The battle will start in 10 minutes. Lai Na was very dissatisfied with her lottery. After all, this Lu Jin is the best among quasi-war gods, and his talent is very strong. But who made him meet Chu Tiannan? It seems that Lu Jin can only enter the elite camp through the resurrection battle. Look, the Huaming area is really interesting. When you come up, you could draw your own people against your own people. At this time, the geniuses such as Mei Ming laughed mockingly. Even the people in the European Union followed their eyes. And compared to them, Bai Meng was much more stable. Hearing this news, the girl in yellow looked towards Huaming with her beautiful eyes, and a gleam of light flashed across her bright eyes. Luo'er, who are you fighting against? At this moment, a gentle voice came from behind the girl, and a heroic young man in a white robe and long uniform approached with a smile. Every time he took a step, there were slight fluctuations on the ground. It seemed that this person's strength was definitely not weak. Olga. Hearing this, Luo'er nodded slightly, and just lightly picked up her stick to show the other party, without saying much. Fight against EU009? It seems that I don't need to worry about this battle. Olga's evil eyes flashed slightly, and he smiled. It seems that there are you and me in Baimeng this time, and it is safe to compete for the first place. Even though Olga said a lot, Luo'er's beautiful eyes still fell on the young man of Huameng, who was carrying a dark golden long sword. But in order to avoid embarrassment, Luo'er nodded from time to time. Seeing that the other party didn't pay attention to what he meant, Olga turned his eyes to Chu Tiannan. With a glimmer of gloom in his eyes, he couldn't help laughing and said, Is it the most opponent that the elders said? Hearing that the other party was talking about Chu Tiannan, Luo'er's bright eyes flashed a gleam, and she nodded slightly. Kindness. Seeing that Luo'er kept looking at the Huameng side without looking at him at all, Olga's heroic and elegant face was slightly livid, and then he hid it very well. Chu Tiannan. Olga's flat and evil eyes fell on the young man carrying the long sword, with a trace of disdain in his heart. I really hope that I can match you. If so, I will also see what is the difference between the people Luo'er pays attention to. Thinking this way in his heart, Olga's fighting spirit towards Chu Tiannan became stronger and stronger. Kindness? Chu Tiannan, who was getting ready, seemed to feel that someone was surveying him. He turned around to look, but saw nothing, but found a pair of bright eyes falling on him. Seeing Luo'er looking at him, Chu Tiannan immediately grinned, waved his hands, and moved his mouth slightly. Come on. Knowing what the other party said, Luo'er smiled and responded, You too. Lin Yuro saw this scene. She looked at Chu Tiannan and then at Luo'er, feeling a little complicated in her heart. This guy, Seeing Luo smiling at Chu Tiannan, Olga's face suddenly became gloomy. He put his hands in his pockets, his evil eyes flashed, and he sneered in his heart. Let you be crazy for a while, and when you meet me, I will let you know what a gap is. Do you want to be with Luo? Don't even look at your own strength and status. Luo's beauty is naturally famous. All of the 100 Leagues belong to the 100 Leagues, and Luo, the goddess of the Lin family, is very familiar with her. That is the peerless goddess in the hearts of countless evildoers. The love for Luo can be said to be everywhere. Originally, Olga had a headache for other rivals in love, but now that there is the little-known Chu Tiannan, he naturally wants to vent his anger. Standing in the fighting arena, Chu Tiannan realized that it was actually divided into 4 major arenas, and candidates had already stood up in all the arenas at this time, and the battle was about to start. Boom! The 4 arenas of martial arts are rising along with the trend, and it is amazing to separate them. But let me meet you, boy, you are unlucky. Lu Jin stood on the field at this time, sneering endlessly. On the contrary, Chu Tiannan frowned slightly and immediately said calmly, "Go ahead, or you will lose your chance. Let's make a move where you won't have a chance." As he said that, Chu Tiannan's eyes subconsciously fell elsewhere, because in the 3rd martial arts arena, Luo was also there. At this time, she stood there slim and graceful, letting the opponent's strong and harsh aura sweep over her, and she still remained calm. It seems that there is no suspense in this battle. When seeing Luo's opponent, Chu Tiannan secretly smiled in his heart, and at the same time prayed slightly for that hapless opponent. Even with the upgrade and assistance of the devouring system, Chu Tiannan found that whenever he faced Luo, there was always an inexplicable pressure. It seems that they also have opportunities and special features. Otherwise, Chu Tiannan thought that his cultivation speed would not be slow, but still feel a little bottomless. Even more arrogant than me. Seeing that Chu Tiannan was ignoring him directly, Lu Jin's fists were swept by the wind, and his eyes seemed to burst into flames. Boom! At this moment, Lu Jin stepped on the sole of his foot, and there was a gust of wind on the ground. His figure was extremely powerful, like a tiger preying on his prey, and he was as powerful as a broken bamboo. I didn't expect this person to be very narrow-minded, but his attack method is very arrogant. Facing Lu Jin's attack, Chu Tiannan smiled lightly in his heart. Chu Tiannan made a wrong step with his left hand behind his back and his right hand forward like a master of generation. His movements were quite arrogant. It seems that he doesn't know the consequences of accepting Tiger Fist forcefully. Seeing Chu Tiannan's extremely simple movements, Lu Jin felt that he was underestimated, and while he sneered in his heart, he charged even more fiercely. Lu Jin is very confident in his own attacks. The main effect of Tiger Fist is that when the 2 sides fight recklessly, he can enter the enemy's body through the hidden strength of the punch, thereby taking advantage of the situation to destroy the opponent's tendons, making him lose the ability to fight in an instant. This move is not insidious. Of course, Lu Jin spent a full 300 billion Earth coins to buy this Tiger Fist. The damage is naturally. How dare this guy take it so hard? Among the crowd watching the battle, seeing Chu Tiannan like this, Lu Tong immediately frowned, feeling disappointed in his heart. I thought there was something special about this 001, but I didn't expect it to be nothing more than that. Brother, it's a bit drifting. Seeing this, Lan Ju couldn't help muttering. At this time, Xianglai didn't say a word, his eyes fixed on the fighting arena, because he knew that he was blocked by Chu Tiannan's palm. Bang! It was too late to say that it was too fast, and I saw a fist on the palm of Chu Tiannan's right hand at this time, and a violent fist wind swept across the 4 directions, shaking away the dust on the ground of the martial arts arena. How do you feel? Lu Jin punched Chu Tiannan's palm firmly. He felt that his dark attack had penetrated into the opponent's body. What he had to do now was to see how long Chu Tiannan could hold on. Luo watched from the edge of another martial arts arena. She held the hilt of the lightsaber in her right hand, but she didn't light up the sword. On the other hand, his opponent was already trembling. In the end, he fell down unwillingly and passed out. Tiannan. Lin Yuro clenched her little hands at this moment, looking nervously at the martial arts arena. Hee arrogant. Olga shook her head and smiled lightly when she saw this. The smile was full of disdain and contempt, but nothing more. Time passed, and, after a few seconds passed, Lu Jin realized something was wrong. He realized that there was nothing unusual about Chu Tiannan at this time. He saw that Chu Tiannan's face was flushed, his breathing was even and steady, and Lu Jin's eyes were dark. He wanted to pull out his hand, but he realized that it was impossible. Don't play. There's another game. At that time, Chu Tiannan's right hand was slightly clenched, grasping Lu Jin's fist tightly, the corners of his mouth slightly raised, and then under Lu Jin's horrified gaze, he swung it fiercely. Boom, boom. Like swinging a sledgehammer, Chu Tiannan made the movement that Enlaina threw before with astonishing strength. I'll go. Isn't this power too perverted? Xiong Lai Lanjue and others widened their eyes. Seeing Lu Jin, who had no ability to resist, they were shocked. Boom! As a quasi-war god-level Lu Jin, he was stunned by Chu Tiannan's wheel at this time. Now he's like a hot wheel being swung by Chu Tiannan continuously, hitting the ground heavily. The way of fighting is so simple and rude. Boom, boom. Facing Chu Tiannan, who was swinging a sledgehammer, Lu Jin had already been smashed to the ground and had no strength to resist. Even the instructors watching the battle from a distance saw this simple and crude primitive style of play. Actually felt a little cold. This kid is ruthless enough. Raptor martial god folded his arms, his facial muscles twitched, and said, he is so ruthless to his own people. What kind of hatred is this? Who knows? But fortunately this Lu Jin is a quasi-war god level. He originally had a good future, but he didn't expect to meet Chu Tiannan. The bearded Audiobook martial god standing beside him also shook his head, sighed. Enlaina's beautiful eyes fell on the fighting arena at this time. Seeing Chu Tiannan like this, she was secretly speechless. This guy actually imitated this girl. Am I so violent? If this sentence is said, I am afraid that it will be unanimously approved by the instructor team of the Huameng district. After all, the scene of Ma Teng's tragic fall before was deeply imprinted in everyone's hearts. We've surrendered. We've surrendered. Lu Tong said urgently, raising his hands high. He was worried about his brother's life. Although Lu Jingui was at the quasi-martial god level, facing Chu Tiannan, the former was like a toy, unable to fight back at all. This guy hides his strength. Lu Tong gritted his teeth. In order to keep his brother in the next resurrection battle, he must stop Chu Tiannan. Are you admitting defeat? Chu Tiannan stopped at this moment. He grabbed Lu Jin, who was like a puddle of mud, and couldn't help muttering, I haven't had enough fun yet. As soon as the sentence came out, everyone couldn't laugh or cry. You almost broke him. Are you still not satisfied? I'll pay back. At this time, Lu Jin's eyes were staring like dead fish's eyes. He was completely stunned by the fall, and he could no longer tell the truth from the truth, and he couldn't even speak clearly. At this moment, he was already in the mood of wanting to die. It was as if someone swung a sledgehammer on a dignified quasi-war god, and his body was beaten to pieces. If the consciousness returns, Lu Jin will even doubt his own strength, whether he has the level of a quasi-war god. Thank you for your mercy. Lu Tong took over Lu Jin, who doubted his life, and the flame of anger disappeared, replaced by a trace of deep fear. He feared that Chu Tiannan's strength might have already reached the quasi-war god level, or even surpassed the quasi-war god level. Otherwise, he would never believe that under the same circumstances, even though Lu Jin was careless, Chu Tiannan won so simply and neatly. The truth is a little hard to accept. Next time you want to find fault, change someone else. You're not enough. Chu Tiannan threw Lu Jin's body to Lu Tong in boredom, immediately clapped his hands, and looked at Luo Er's battlefield. It's all over? Seeing that Luo Er had long since disappeared, Chu Tiannan shook his head and jumped down from the arena. Brother, you are so awesome. Xiongli said, excitedly with his eyes wide open at this moment. As a strength fighter, seeing Chu Tiannan, who was slender and not as burly as himself, could easily knock him out, Xiongli admired him quite a lot. Lan Zhu, Lin Yuro, and others also ran over. The relationship between them was not bad, so they came to celebrate. I'm just using my ingenuity. If you want to learn, I'll teach you. Chu Tiannan rolled up his sleeves, smiled at Xiongli, and then his eyes fell on the blue-eyed girl, and said, "Your opponent is EU002. Come on, I like you." "Well, I will work hard," Lin Yuro said softly with a smile on her pretty face after being cheered on by the other party. The instructor team was watching the battle on the observation platform. After discovering Chu Tiannan's battle, many instructors fell silent, including the instructors of the American League, the European Union, and the Baimeng. Their eyes are slightly dignified at this time, and the group of little guys can't tell that these guys are all warrior-level powerhouses. Naturally, it can be seen that Chu Tiannan's fighting method seems simple, but it is extremely complicated. Not bad. And Lina showed a long-lost smile at this time. She was also very happy to see Chu Tiannan winning easily. This little guy is very fast, and his strength explodes, which is perfect. In another room, 3 old men looked at the fighting arena below through the glass. The old man with white beard at the head smiled and said, "I never expected to reach half-step martial god at such a young age." "Not bad, not bad. Half-step martial god. The talent is indeed very strong." The white-hued old man laughed. The old man, who was as thin as Deadwood, nodded slightly. His eyes burst out with a strong light of vitality, and said, "It seems that what those old guys were discussing a while ago should be this little guy. Everything is still dusty. Who can say what happened later?" The dark-faced old man on the left with a somewhat gloomy face snorted lightly, with a hint of indifference in his words. "Don't forget, in this talent selection competition, not only Chu Tiannan is strong, but 001 and 002 from the other 3 districts are hard to deal with. Elder Ling, you always like to fight against the elders, alas." Hearing this, the skinny old man shook his head secretly and said, "How big of a man are you? Why can't you restrain yourself, even want to fight with the elders?" "Feng Lao, don't be a peacemaker. I'm just explaining a fact." Ling Lao blew his beard and stared. A cold green light emanated from his body, and the green light was full of special and strange fluctuations, causing the whole space to fall into a faint coercion. Elder Ling, do you want to make a bet?" At that time, the elder with a white beard supported his long beard with a gentle and sunny smile. The coercion emanating from Ling Lao around was quietly gone. "What are you betting on?" Elder Ling snorted. "I know you like that little guy Marcus. This Marcus is the illusionist, am I right?" The elder laughed. He pointed to the arena below and said, "I'll bet you this. If he is lucky enough to fight Chu Tiannan, if he wins, I promise you to give him a complete set of secret technique of the soul." "Old man, you are playing too big." Hearing this, Feng Lao said helplessly, "Your soul art, no matter how many people ask for it, you just give it away? How did you know that I would lose?" The elder was smiling gently from the beginning to the end, which made Feng Lao shake his head slightly and stop talking. "Okay, this old man bet with you." Hearing about the bet, Elder Ling's eyes lit up. Although he is also playing with the soul, but he is a warrior in control. But the elder is a genuine, strong illusionist, so it is perfect for an illusionist to teach an illusionist. "If you lose, how about you give me your rules of controlling the sky?" The elder's eyes were filled with a hint of inspiration. It seems that he has already figured out how to calculate the opponent. "What do you want my controlling the heavens to do?" Elder Ling was taken aback when he heard this and couldn't help asking. The bet has been made, so I think it will be useful." The elder didn't say anything. In the fighting arena, at this time, the battle is still going on, and some battles are extremely fast, while others are very stalemate. But most of them still have a crushing situation. After all, there must be some kind of unequal relationship between geniuses. Just like Chu Tiannan's previous battle against Lu Jin, although there was no such simple and violent scene in the subsequent battle, There were also very strange battles at the airport. For example, Oliga of Baimeng 002 is a master fighter, but anyone who fights with him cannot get close to him within 10 meters, and finally the opponent is consumed alive to the point of surrendering. And the illusionist Marcus, as long as his opponent is close to him, he will be fixed by one of his eyes, and then the battle will be over. Of course, Luo Air is indispensable among them. If everyone could see the former's fighting methods before, it was Luo Air's turn. She always only swings one sword, and, of course, the blade never comes out of the sheath, and she wins. The speed is so fast that even slow-motion playback can't show it perfectly. The battle in the fighting arena is gradually approaching the later stage, and most of the geniuses have already decided the winner. Even Lan Ju fought against the controller, and finally won by a narrow margin. As for Xiong Lai, he was not lucky enough to meet Luo Air, and the ending can be imagined. The next signing is American League 001 and Baimeng 002. When Chu Tiannan easily won the next opponent, he was also ready to watch this match. After all, the number of battles has become less and less. He needs to understand the strength of his opponent, especially this mysterious illusionist. This battle is the battle between Maimeng 001 and Baimeng 002. It is absolutely wonderful. This should be the first battle between the illusionist and the controller. I'm really looking forward to it. I feel that in comparison, in terms of heads up, the illusionist is more likely to win. Not necessarily. What if it's the controller? Don't forget that he is also a soul player, and his comprehensive strength will never lose to this illusionist. Faced with this relatively important battle, even after the battle, everyone will still not leave. That is, you talk to each other and start discussing. Tiannan, who do you think will win? Lin Yuro walked over at this time and said with a smile, I think that illusionist is very strong. Now the battle rankings have basically come out, and Lin Yuro's position is definitely in the top 10, but everyone has to choose a top 10 in the final battle. Now Lin Yuro's comprehensive strength should be around 5th. So, no matter whether she wins or loses, she will stay in the specialized unit. Hearing this, Chu Tiannan nodded slightly and said, it's very strong. He really needs to pay close attention to this Marcus now. According to the news Luo Air gave just now, this Marcus is extremely powerful. The illusionist, Chu Tiannan, was thinking in his heart. His star pupils flashed, as if he had other plans. Fighting arena. Olga looked at the black young man calmly, and with his eyes closed, his fists clenched slightly. I don't blame him for being angry. No matter who he is fighting with, Marcus will not open his eyes casually. It is said that once he opens his eyes, he will crush the game. But Olga, as a genius controller, and possesses the strength of a quasi-Valkyrie, how could he be afraid of him? I'm putting on airs. At this moment, Olga looked back and pulled out 3 short swords emitting cold light. The daggers seemed to be arrayed in mid-air, with a tyrannical and ferocious aura, with strange curves, enveloping it from all directions. The target is directed at Black Youth. Whoosh! With the crazy attack of the 3 daggers and the powerful soul coercion, Marcus did not have any emotional fluctuations, and he still stood still. It was as if everything that happened in this world had nothing to do with him. This guy is quite arrogant. Xiong Lai came to Chu Tiannan, couldn't help scratching his head, and said, Brother, who is stronger between you and him? It goes without saying, of course it's the eldest brother. Lan Ju said, staring at the side, Let big brother watch the battle well, and don't disturb him. At this time, Chu Tiannan didn't reply, his eyes fixed on Marcus. He wanted to know what this illusionist relied on to defeat each opponent. You are remote, and I'm also remote. Let's see who is stronger. Seeing that the other party did not move, Oliga sneered. He stretched out his right hand and constantly adjusted his attack direction, trying to find the opponent's blind spot as much as possible. Only in this way can it be defeated in one fell swoop. This is the strength of the controller. The stronger the will of the soul, the stronger it is in controlling the weapon. Obviously, this Olga, in terms of real combat strength, is probably stronger than Robert. Seeing the three daggers driving the sharp wind, Marcus still kept his eyes closed, and he slowly raised his right hand in the next second. Like ripples on the surface of a lake, one after another began to spread in front of his hand, quietly forming a barrier, directly blocking the attack of the three daggers. Clang, clang. It was as if there were countless collisions, and no matter how hard Olga tried, she couldn't break through Marcus' defense at all. Damn, how strong is this guy's soul will? At this moment, some sweat appeared on Olga's forehead. He has already maximized the strengthening of his soul power, but he still can't break through the opponent's defense, which is quite uncomfortable. Break it! With Olga's roar, the dagger charge became stronger, and a crack appeared in Marcus' barrier. The crack spread rapidly, followed by a spider web, and finally shattered. It's now. Seeing that the opponent's defense was broken, Olga sneered, flicked his right hand, and gave the order. I saw three daggers rushing towards him directly, like a broken bamboo. You are qualified to let me use magic. At that time, only hearing Marcus's indifferent words, everything around suddenly fell silent. Boom! Olga, who was still holding the chance of winning before, now had a frightened face, and he was in some pain, and finally fell down unwillingly. The dagger also fell to the ground, and there was silence all around. As Olga suddenly fell to the ground in pain and fell into a coma, the whole battle situation suddenly became confusing. Seeing that the arena was extremely calm, as if nothing had happened, Marcus withdrew his raised right hand. His closed eyes during the battle finally opened after the battle, looked at Olga, who fell to the ground, and gave a slight salute. You have good strength, but I restrained you and asked me to use illusion. You are currently the first one. It turned out that Marcus hadn't released illusions at all in the previous battle. When the news came out, everyone was blown up. What? This illusionist fought with me before, but he didn't even release the illusion. This is such a slap in the face. I don't even have the strength to let people release their skills. No way. Who made this illusionist too strong? Except fate, brother. Many young men and women in the audience looked at Marcus. Some were angry and felt that he was not respected by others. But there are also some people who have completely convinced the illusionist, and they shook their heads one after another. Said that facing such an opponent, they have no confidence. At least from the lottery to the present, this Marcus has never lost a game. Chu Tiannan was recalling the previous battle from the beginning to the end. He was analyzing Marcus's battle process, looking very serious. My opponent has come out for the next battle. Chu Tiannan was startled when Lanju handed over the lottery to him. At this time, his eyes suddenly fell to the distance. Chu Tiannan's star eyes flashed a different color, but the black youth in the distance also looked at the former. At this time, although the two were far apart, the vague aura fluctuations made Chu Tiannan and the two of them start to confront each other before they fought. It's kind of interesting. This is the only way to challenge. The black youth felt the will of the soul in Chu Tiannan's body. He was a little surprised, grinned. He stretched out his big black hand and immediately compared his thumbs under everyone's gaze. Seeing this, the geniuses around immediately went into an uproar. They didn't expect that Marcus, a genius from the American League, was praising Chu Tiannan at this moment. However, this was not the case. Marcus had a bright smile, but there was a confident smile in those deep eyes. In the next second, Marcus's thumb, which was originally compared, slowly turned downward under everyone's gaze. What? Is this looking down on Chu Tiannan? It's fun now. It seems that Chu Tiannan and Marcus are matched. Then the last four people, Luo will definitely fight against Fortes from the European Union. I'm really looking forward to it. This is the most exciting battle. I support Chu Tiannan. He belongs to my Huameng. Get rid of him, Chu Tiannan. Faced with Marcus' provocation, many people around immediately sighed. Although Chu Tiannan is a powerful fighter, everyone has been speculating about his strength. Because from the beginning of the battle to the present, Chu Tiannan always controlled the enemy with one move and did not release any warrior power. Some people have even speculated that the reason why Chu Tiannan is unwilling to use more power is because he has already become a martial god. Of course, all this is speculation among geniuses and has no practical significance. These guys, hearing the rumors around him, Chu Tiannan couldn't help shaking his head and smiling slightly. Just relying on brute force can win. Chu Tiannan naturally likes to save his strength to deal with the next battle. Baiming District 001 versus EU District 001. Huaming District 001 versus Maiming District 001. You come to the fighting arena immediately. With the voices of the instructors, Chu Tiannan left at this moment. Under the gazes of many envious and encouraging eyes, for figures with different auras went to the huge fighting arena, respectively. Boom! The fighting arena was in shock at this moment because there were only 2 groups of geniuses left to fight, so the 4 huge fighting arenas suddenly merged into 2. It's not amazing. Luo, you are the best. Marcus, kill them. Fortes, give us a first place. Tiannan, get rid of Marcus and take the first place. The sound of cheers and encouragement erupted around, making Chu Tiannan, Luo, Fortes, and Marcus understand. They're the number 1 talents from each district in the next venue. They want to decide to win the strongest first. Come on, fight for the first place. Seeing the 4 geniuses stepping onto the fighting arena, the other geniuses watching the battle from a distance suddenly cheered. They are all cheering for their number 1 side, which is related to the glory of the Alliance regions. For this, all the districts attach great importance to it. Even on the observation platform, the martial gods were slightly squinting and resting. They all looked at the fighting arena seriously at this moment. What do you think? Which of these 4 little guys is most likely to win? Raptor Valkyrie said to his instructor team with a smile while holding the railing with both hands. It's hard to say. This kid has been reluctant to come here since the beginning of the fight. The Valkyrie of Fire shook her head slightly. Her eyes fell on the fighting arena. The black-haired young man with a long sword said, I really don't know how precious his sword is. He's a bit too arrogant. The martial gods around all nodded slightly. The opponent Chu Tiannan was facing this time was an illusionist, and they knew that Chu Tiannan was a powerful fighter, although he was extremely talented and powerful in combat, but his brute strength was in front of illusionists. Unless Chu Tiannan can get close to the illusionist, otherwise he will be crushed. The instructors and other surrounding areas are also discussing in low voices, and it can be seen that the instructors of the European Union have a more dignified expression, and the instructor of the American League has a smug smile. As for the Baiming, they seemed very calm, as if the world had nothing to do with me. Look quietly. At this moment, Laina's faint voice came, and the instructors in the Huaming district stopped talking. Fighting arena. Chu Tiannan looked at the black youth standing in the distance. His star pupils suddenly became sharp. Like blades, they swept through the air. The aura of the entire venue fluctuated with his fluctuations, and many geniuses in the audience were excited. They knew that Chu Tiannan was about to attack. You are very strong. At this time, Marcus communicated with him in broken Mandarin. His voice was low, and he closed his eyes slowly. But it's a pity that you're a power fighter, so make a move, or you will have no chance. This is Marcus's habitual action since the first battle. In his opinion, even if he is number 1 in the Huaming district, it doesn't necessarily require him to open his eyes to fight. Marcus, who has a strong soul will, can already inspect everything with his soul. This kind of strength is worthy of his proud capital. You're not bad, but it's a pity that you met me. Hearing this, Chu Tiannan smiled, and his words were also firm. Everyone is the number 1 genius in this district, and it is normal to be dissatisfied with each other. The breath on the stage was cold and chilling, while the geniuses in the Huaming district were watching the battle off the stage were sweating for Chu Tiannan at this moment. Can he win? Lin Yuro looked at the slender figure holding the sword on the stage and spoke softly with a hint of worry. No problem. My elder brother's real strength is not his strength. Xionglai looked at it confidently with his arms folded at this time, and said with a smile, I guess this time elder brother has to draw his sword. Lin Yuro's expression froze when she heard the word drawing the sword, She subconsciously set her eyes on the Yin Tian sword, and a trace of doubt flashed across her eyes. Obviously thinking, can a sword decide the outcome? In this tense moment, Chu Tiannan and Marcus were undoubtedly the most relaxed. Obviously, neither of them regards each other as opponents. So this is interesting. Let's do it, or you won't have a chance. Originally, this was a line that Marcus often said, but now it was used by Chu Tiannan, which made the former a little stunned. Okay, as you wish. Marcus chuckled. Immediately, he slowly stretched out his right hand, and under the gaze of many eyes, he slowly pressed down. Boom! At the same time, a wave of soul coercion from wild wolves, as if from the Dragon King's anger, was like a tall tsunami among the invisible mountains and tsunami. Although the coercion of the soul tsunami cannot be seen, there are ripples and tremors in the entire fighting arena. This is because the entire arena is under the pressure of the soul from Marcus, so it can be said that it is not weak. I saw the soul tsunami ruthlessly suppressed away, and the target was directed at the young man with the sword. Boom! Facing the invisible tsunami of souls, Chu Tiannan still stood calmly in place. He was just a special ray of light flashing through his clear star pupils. This ray of light actually carried stronger will pressure, just at the moment when Marcus's soul attack was about to arrive. Open! The invisible soul barrier wrapped Chu Tiannan in very well. At this moment, he was like a docto in the waves, allowing the tsunami to swallow him. Still standing. After feeling that there was nothing unusual about Chu Tiannan, Marcus looked a little surprised. He guessed that his probing attack would definitely not defeat Chu Tiannan, but what he didn't expect was that. They didn't feel it all. It felt like scratching an itch, which made Marcus's face slightly cold. He didn't expect Chu Tiannan to be so ignorant. Chu Tiannan, couldn't help laughing out easily, resisting the crushing of his soul, which made many geniuses feel ashamed. Many people fell down from this trick, but Chu Tiannan acted like a normal person. This is the code name 001. I really don't care about it. Lu Tong resented Chu Tiannan at the beginning. But when he saw that Chu Tiannan easily resisted Marcus' move, Lu Tong looked at Chu Tiannan with a hint of fear because he couldn't resist even one move. This Chu Tiannan definitely has the strength to kill the two brothers. As for Lu Jin, he also became frightened. This person is not to be provoked. Lu Jin was not irrational either. Although he secretly hated Chu Tiannan's strength, he was not a fool. Since they couldn't be provoked, they naturally chose to hide. To say that the one who was most annoyed at this time was naturally the awakened Olga. When he saw that Chu Tiannan was able to easily stand on the fighting arena under the pressure of the will of the soul, the expression on his face was uncertain. Snort! Olga looked at Luo in the other fighting arena, and then at Chu Tiannan. The flames rose in his heart, but he also became rational. This person has a strong soul and will, and I can't afford to offend him. Olga was unwilling, but also had a lot of helplessness. As a genius of the 100 Leagues Alliance, he naturally would not make enemies at will, which was an unwise choice for the 100 Leagues. Although the 100 Families Alliance is the richest, even as rich as an enemy country, but in this world force is paramount, and the rich cannot hold back the powerful. Why can this person's soul will withstand the pressure of my soul? On the fighting arena, Marcus felt that his opponent was not unusual at all, and he was secretly surprised. The attack launched by Marcus before seemed simple, but in fact the soul coercion contained in it, even a quasi-warrior level power fighter, could not bear it. But now, Chu Tiannan, as a strength fighter, actually managed to bear it. There was no abnormality in his complexion, obviously very relaxed. You know, Marcus is a half-step Valkyrie illusionist. It can be called the strongest state of soul while under the Valkyrie level. If the soul will is not high, even the controller will also be hit. It's not rude to come and go, you can try mine too. Chu Tiannan easily dispelled Marcus's soul pressure and immediately waved his hand. Boom! I saw a more forceful and tyrannical impact of the soul's will, roaring away like mountains and seas, and the impact was so strong that people could actually see it with the naked eye. This Marcus is not weak. Although Chu Tiannan looked very relaxed, the soul coercion he resisted before consumed a lot of soul power. So in this counterattack, Chu Tiannan naturally would not choose to hold back anything. Madness. After hearing Chu Tiannan's counterattack, Marcus sneered in his heart. He slowly raised his right hand, and the soul barrier opened accordingly. Click. However, what Marcus did not expect was that the impact of Chu Tiannan's soul will instantly shatter the former soul barrier like a sharp blade. You are a warrior. Why do you have such a strong soul will? Marcus kept pinching his hands. Immediately, a larger and thicker soul barrier spread out, and he was no longer careless at this time, because Marcus felt the impact of the soul will from the counterattack, which was even stronger than his own soul will, which surprised Marcus. Call out. However, at the same time, at the moment when Marcus resisted Chu Tiannan's counterattack, the latter's figure stepped on the thunderlight, as fast as lightning, and came close to Marcus in the blink of an eye. Chu Tiannan couldn't help saying that he swiped his hands into palms, and a large handprint appeared behind him instantly, imbued with soul coercion. Swipe away. What? Marcus was secretly startled, but his face was calm when he felt the deterrence of the force coming to his face. You are the first opponent I have faced. At this moment, Marcus smiled lightly at this critical moment and immediately fell under Chu Tiannan's gaze. Suddenly opened those eyes that had been closed since the beginning of the battle. Boom! The tyrannical impact of the soul and will was as overwhelming as mountains and seas. Although it was invisible to the naked eye, Marcus, who was an illusionist, knew it. He has met a real opponent. Open. In the next second, Marcus opened his eyes that had been closed from the very beginning to the present, and the soul barrier was like a great wall, extremely strong. Bang! So that's how it is. After Chu Tiannan found out the opponent's strength, the corners of his mouth curled up. The shock of soul and will he released before was just a feint attack, but now Chu Tiannan stepped on Thunderland's tactics and instantly got close to Marcus with the wind in his palm and whizzed away. Call out. When Marcus saw this, he didn't care about the impact of the soul's will and flew back, avoiding Chu Tiannan's palm, but he couldn't escape the remaining impact of the soul's will. These can only be resisted by Marcus. He crossed his arms in front of him, and his figure was left with a long trace due to the impact of the soul. It's just an injury? Chu Tiannan couldn't help being a little surprised when he saw that the other party's chi and blood were stable. The reason why he used long-range and close combat at the same time, just now, is to let Marcus choose. If he chooses to avoid the palm, then Chu Tiannan must bear the impact of his soul and will. As expected by Chu Tiannan, Marcus chose to subconsciously avoid melee combat and chose to resist the soul shock. And Chu Tiannan just grasped the opponent's mentality. In fact, the power he used in melee combat was not strong, and his attention was all on the impact of his soul and will. Even if the Valkyrie of the Raptor meets him this time, it may not necessarily please him, even if Marcus, as an illusionist, has a strong soul power. But no matter what, it was not as powerful as the soul of the monster dragon, which was why Chu Tiannan was surprised. Haha, really strong. Marcus wiped off the dead blood from the corner of his mouth and laughed simply and arrogantly. Chu Tiannan looked at the other party with a calm expression, without any disturbance in his heart. You actually hurt me. You're the first one in your class to hurt me. It's good. Marcus spoke in broken Chinese and immediately squeezed his hands together, and a dark cloud suddenly appeared in the sky. Although the area covered by the dark cloud is not large, it can cover the battlefield very well, which surprised the geniuses watching the battle. Is this the strength of Marcus? He can mobilize the power of heaven and earth. How is this possible? Could it be that he has reached the Valkyrie level? Facing these people's questions, no one could give an answer, and even the many martial god instructors on the observation platform in the distance were a little surprised. Worthy of being a half-step Valkyrie illusionist, I almost believed it was so fake. Raptor Valkyrie smiled and shook his head. He looked at the evil man not far away and said with a smile, Vision, you have an opponent. This kid is quite strong. Hearing this, the Vision martial god who was wearing a disciplined uniform with his arms around him, had a gleam of light in his eyes, and then shook his head slightly, saying, "Although it is possible to confuse the real with the fake, this kid has gone astray." Going off, the raptor martial god was taken aback. Illusion is also an illusionist, and he is also a Valkyrie-level illusionist. Of course, what he said can't be wrong. Could it be that Marcus's cultivation system is wrong? Look, this kid is in the field of illusion, a bit like that one. The Vision Valkyrie stared at the fighting arena without blinking and said nothing. On the fighting arena, Chu Tiannan faced the dark clouds above his head, and there was a faint flash of thunder above him. Boom! In the dark clouds, there is actually a silver thunder flashing, like a silver dragon, roaring in all directions. Thunder? Seeing the situation, Chu Tiannan frowned slightly, his eyes fixed on the dark clouds above, and the next moment, the corners of the young man's mouth curled up slightly. "That's it. Let you taste my illusion thunder." Marcus didn't dare to procrastinate. He directly used his strongest ultimate move. This illusion thunder was created by himself. Marcus adapted it based on the skill of Thunder of Silence. Although the power is weaker in comparison, he is confident that he can defeat the opponent with Thunder of Illusion, because so far, no one below the Valkyrie level can withstand his unique skill. Boom! The silver thunder gathered like a sea, and finally, under the watchful eyes of many geniuses, they ruthlessly bombarded the fighting arena. For a moment, the thunder vented, and the silver dragons crisscrossed. Tiannan, Lin Yuro subconsciously held the handkerchief tightly with her small hands, feeling very worried. On another martial arts arena, Luo Air held the hilt of his sword and looked towards Chu Tiannan. An imperceptible light flashed across his bright eyes, and he did not speak. And Lyena's eyes were as calm as water. Her thin lips slightly lifted, and she smiled secretly. This guy, not being an actor, is really a waste of talent. Boom! The thunder bombardment lasted for a full 5 minutes, and Marcus withdrew after his soul power was somewhat exhausted. The thunder clouds dissipated slowly, and Marcus, who was full of confidence, saw the tall and slender figure standing under the dark clouds in the distance. Finally, his complexion suddenly changed. "It's impossible." Marcus couldn't help roaring at this moment. He was no longer as confident as before, especially when he saw the young man in black with a sword in the distance and Scathe, still looking at him with a smile. Marcus felt as if he was being watched by a sleeping dragon, and his heart shivered. At this time, seeing the dark clouds dissipate, and a young figure who had been bombarded by the thunder before did not hurt a single hair, even the geniuses watching the battle in the audience were all surprised. "I'll go. Is this guy still human? Don't talk about anti-thunder. Is there anything wrong? That power, even a half-step martial god, might not be able to resist it without any injuries. How'd he do it?" Marcus' mental state is very weak now. It seems that the outcome has been decided. It's not that he is too weak, but that Chu Tiannan is too strong. Before, there were many people worried about whether Chu Tiannan could withstand Marcus's trick, but now everyone was worried about Marcus instead. I originally wanted to keep the trump card until the end, but I didn't expect that I couldn't even hurt him. Why? Marcus took a big breath of fresh air. The blow just now cost him too much, but he didn't get any results. How could this not make Marcus angry? Not bad strength, but it's a pity that you chose the wrong person. Chu Tiannan said with a smile, a little unsatisfied. He had just discovered that Marcus's so-called Thunder of Illusion was actually a gimmick, flashy. Moreover, Chu Tiannan's soul was the strongest in the world. No illusion could disturb him. So just now Marcus seemed to be powerful, but he was restrained to death. If you change someone, you must feel that you are on the scene, and you have fallen in a Marcus trap. As for the geniuses in the audience, naturally none of them saw the clues. They naively thought that this was the real power of thunder. How did you find out? At this moment, Marcus's voice was low and terrifying. He never expected that the result of the battle would be like this. He clenched his fists tightly. Marcus knew that he had already lost, but he was not reconciled. He was just a little bit short of getting the real number one. But it was terminated by Chu Tiannan, whose attributes were incompatible. He didn't understand why he was seen through, and Marcus wanted to know. It's a very simple reason. Without a martial god class, isn't it a little strange to want to mobilize the power of heaven and earth? Hearing this, Chu Tiannan was not stingy and directly stated the crux of the matter. On the other hand, Marcus' eyes widened when he heard the words, and immediately, like a deflated ball, he waved his hands tiredly and smiled. Haha, thank you for your guidance. Marcus has learned. In the next second, Marcus bowed to Chu Tiannan from the bottom of his heart. He was completely powerless to fight anymore, so instead of staying ashamed, he had to admit defeat. After all, there is no shame in bowing your head in front of strong. I promise, you are very strong, but I am immune to illusion. Chu Tiannan also returned the gift. He admired Marcus's character. This person is not narrow-minded like Lu Jin. On the contrary, he is very open-minded, and it can be seen that this person will definitely go a long way in the future. Of course, even so, Chu Tiannan had already won. In this battle, Huaming District 1001. With the announcement of the instructor's battle result, the geniuses of Huaming District celebrated excitedly. On the other hand, the geniuses in the American League area had a gloomy face, and some even shouted "Fack. Hey, those people are so mad. The eldest brother is handsome, and the eldest brother is strong. Ouch! Who the hell pinched me?" While Xiong Lai was still excited, he felt the pain in his arm. He turned his head and found Li Qianqian looking at him with a gloomy face. This made Xiong Lai swallow his dissatisfied words immediately, showing an embarrassed yet polite smile. "The two of us will be elites from now on. Please take care of us." Li Qianqian saw that Xiong Lai was much taller than herself, but looked like a kitten in front of her, which made her smile, and immediately stretched out her hand. "Oh my God, no problem, Qianqian. I will be your shield from now on." Xiong Lai hurriedly clasped his hands together. The appearance made Lan Ju, who was beside him, hide his face in disgust, and muttered silently, "This guy is not my teammate. This guy is not my teammate." In the wide room, in the ring-shaped building of the fighting arena, 3 old men stood with their hands behind their backs and watched the battle. When Chu Tiannan won, the old man smiled, looked at the old man Ling, and said, "Old Ling, what else can I say?" Hearing this, a gleam of light flashed across Ling Lao's eyes that contained Baichuan, and he immediately sighed and shook his head slightly. "Skills are not as good as people. I admit it. Haha. It's really difficult to make Ling Lao bow his head once." Feng Lao ignored the former stare and laughed. "It seems that the relationship between these 3 old men is good. 001 in Baiming District wins. Rest for 15 minutes, and finally fight against 001 in Huaming District and compete for the first place." When the next battle was announced, Chu Tiannan didn't have any emotion on his face. There is even a hint of want to laugh. In 15 minutes, Baiming District 001 will face Huaming District 001. Get ready. With the sound of the announcement, Chu Tiannan's face was calm, because he and even Luo Air's strength was terrifying, and it was normal for him to win 001 in the European Union. At this moment, the voices of devouring the system sounded one after another. "Ding! Congratulations to the host for devouring Illusion Thunder. The devouring system has entered the 2nd stage. From now on, the host can not only devour monsters to improve strength, but now can devour everything in the world to improve. Ding! Since the host has reached the first criterion of the devouring system, from now on, release the first mission, ask the host to win the last battle, and reward the advanced Valkyrie rank. Failure means downgrading from half-step Valkyrie level to quasi-Valkyrie level. Please consider carefully the host." Ding! The first main task appears in the devouring system. When the host becomes the ultimate Valkyrie class, please go to the Kunlun Mountains to accept the inheritance. Facing the sudden appearance of the devouring system, Chu Tiannan's eyes were dull, and immediately he murmured with some discomfort, "The devouring system actually issued a mission? Why don't you wish me luck?" Recalling the task of releasing the devouring system, Chu Tiannan's eyes lit up at the end, and he couldn't help being surprised and said, "There is still an inheritance?" As the reincarnation of the soul of the monster dragon master, Chu Tiannan naturally understood what the so-called inheritance meant, and his heart immediately blossomed. Hey, since I have inheritance, I have a chance to return to the world of origin. Thinking of this, Chu Tiannan felt an inexplicable sense of excitement and nostalgia, as well as a sense of doubt. He wanted to go back and check carefully whether the breakthrough back then was his own mistake. If someone did it intentionally behind, he had to find out. If it's my problem, I'll admit it. If it's then crush it. Thinking of this, Chu Tiannan clenched his fists tightly, and a trace of frost burst out from his star pupils. Ding! Host, please devour the Tianju before the end of the Cataclysm. Once the Tianju is fully awakened, the real end of the world will come earlier. The time limit for this mission is set within 5 years. After 5 years, the Earth will enter a period of catastrophe and destruction, and there is a chance that human beings on Earth will be completely extinct. The end of the world? Chu Tiannan took over all the tasks in one breath, and after understanding these, the determination in his eyes became more intense. After cultivating for so long, I have released several tasks in one go. It's okay. I'm just worrying about being boring. Chu Tiannan rubbed his fists and said with a smile in his heart. However, when Chu Tiannan recalled the previous mission, his face froze for a moment, and then he smiled wryly. Oh my God, let me win Luo Air in the last battle? If I can't beat Luo Air, I will still be ranked? What kind of system? Host, please pay attention to your rules. If you do it again, you will be forced to downgrade. Really, I have a saying that I don't know if I should say it or not. Chu Tiannan's face suddenly darkened. But there is no way. Who let the devouring system be the boss now? Chu Tiannan's strength is firstly weak, and secondly, he still needs it now, so he had to keep a low profile first. The 15-minute break was fleeting, and when the instructors announced the start of the final battle, Chu Tiannan raised his head slightly, looked at the fighting arena, and took a deep breath. Walked up slowly. Brother, come on. Come on, Tiannan. Come on, brother. At this time, Lanju Xiongli and Lin Yuro were all cheering for him, and even the other geniuses of the Huameng were also cheering for him. After all, this is about the glory of each district, and Chu Tiannan, as a dark horse genius who has cultivated to the half-step martial god level in less than a year, naturally attracts much attention. Chu Tiannan, walked towards the fighting arena, facing the cheers from behind. He smiled wryly and shook his head. Turning his eyes to the observation booth, Chu Tiannan found that the martial god of Raptor and the martial god of Raging Fire were also nodding to show their support, while Lina blinked mischievously with a hint of cunning in her eyes, as if to say, see what you do. If you win, you'll be advanced. If you lose, you'll be general. Don't talk about this. I can't do it at all. Chu Tiannan couldn't laugh or cry in his heart. At this moment, the girl in the yellow dress also walked onto the fighting arena. Looking at the helpless Chu Tiannan, she smiled sweetly. I didn't expect it. Hearing this, Chu Tiannan shrugged and said helplessly, I didn't expect that. Both sides get ready. The battle begins. Chu Tiannan gritted his teeth as the announcement sounded. Immediately, when he was about to raise his hand to admit defeat, Luo Air raised the hilt of his sword high, and a clear and pleasant voice resounded through the audience. I surrender. I admit defeat. With Luo Air's crisp voice, the area around the originally boiling martial arts field suddenly fell silent. Needle drop can be heard. What? Marcus, who was drinking water, almost spewed out water when he heard Luo Air admit defeat. What kind of rhythm is this? Lanju's face was full of disbelief when he heard Luo Air surrender. Not only him, but even the talented teams in the 4 districts didn't expect it. In this final battle, Luo Air, who has been victorious in all battles, chose to admit defeat directly and give up the first place. Happiness came too suddenly. Chu Tiannan's eyes were dull, and his heart beat a little faster when he saw the beautiful figure walking slowly in front of him. Didn't you think of it again? Luo Air moved lightly in lotus steps and came to the young man in black, blinking her bright eyes, full of cunning and eccentricity. Are you sure you will admit defeat if you don't fight with me? Chu Tiannan ignored the uproar around him, looked at the beautiful girl in front of him and couldn't help asking, "What? You want to fight with me?" Hearing this, Luo Air raised her brows, immediately picked up the hilt of her sword, and said casually, "I can fight." Don't. I was joking just now." Chu Tiannan hurriedly grabbed Luo's slender hands with both hands and said hastily, seeing her slender hand being held back in front of everyone, Luo Air's pretty face flushed, but it was surprising. Luo Air didn't choose to break free, but let the other party pull her. Click. At this time, the area around the martial arts arena became deadly silent again. Everyone stared at this scene dumbfounded, and heartbroken voices came and went one after another. They really have a relationship. Olga gritted his teeth at this time and tore his handkerchief to pieces to vent his unwillingness and heartbreak. Luo is the most beautiful woman in the Hundred Families Alliance. In the Hundreds of Families Alliance, how many days the favored ones tried to win her heart, but they all failed. Now, a little-known Chu Tiannan suddenly appeared. How could this make people feel comfortable? What about this show? All the instructors in the observation seats were startled, and Martial God of Raptor laughed wantonly, ignoring the cold gazes from Baimeng. Damn it, it's too cheap for the Huameng district. It's a good cabbage, it's a pig. At this time, all the instructors in the Baimeng district, including the chief instructor, cursed. Apparently, they were very surprised by the special relationship between Luo Air and Chu Tiannan, and they were quite angry. They could even guess some of the relationship that made Luo Air give up the title of the first genius in this session. Oh my God, have you ever seen such a handsome and talented pig? The martial god of Raptor was so cheap and obedient, while the martial god of Raging Fire next to him covered his face and sighed. Who is this guy? Where did he come from? I don't know him. I don't know either. This product is poisonous. Can I return it? Several instructors in the Huameng district subconsciously took a step back, keeping a small distance from the Raptor Valkyrie. On the other hand, Enlaina's pretty face twitched slightly, and she looked at the martial arts arena, feeling a little uncomfortable. Enlaina, you have to calm down. What's your name with a girl who is younger than you? Enlaina kept comforting herself. On the martial arts arena, Chu Tiannan looked at the beautiful girl in front of him with a flawless face. No matter how he looked at it, he felt that it was not enough. Is it enough? At that time, Luo Air couldn't stand the strange eyes around her, so she said softly. But her little hand still didn't break free, as if she was waiting for Chu Tiannan to let go. Oh, blame me. After finishing speaking, Chu Tiannan chuckled, and, just about to speak, his expression changed slightly, and he started to meditate directly. At this moment, Chu Tiannan frowned slightly, and with even breathing, he breathed in and out from time to time with streaks of black and yellow force, as if he was protecting his own soldiers. Kindness? Seeing this, Luo was also taken aback by Chu Tiannan's sudden scene, but felt that Chu Tiannan's aura was not only okay, but became stronger and stronger. Her pretty face was slightly startled. Call out, call out, call out. At this moment, 3 figures suddenly appeared in the sky. They were naturally the 3 elders. Feng Lao looked at Chu Tiannan and nodded slightly at the elder. Everyone, the 3rd phase of the test is over. Everyone, let's disperse. I will protect Chu Tiannan. Don't disturb anyone. The elder stepped forward, looked at the geniuses outside the fighting arena with gentle eyes, and smiled gently. Now is the key to this little guy's breakthrough. The instructors in each district will take away their own people. Who am I? Where am I? In his hazy consciousness, Chu Tiannan seemed to see himself in the void, but he knew it. It's just empty here. As Chu Tiannan's consciousness gradually became clearer, he seemed to see evolution in the void, and this evolution gradually formed a closed space. As for this so-called enclosed space, in Chu Tiannan's eyes, it looked so familiar. It was a green valley, and the area of the valley alone was hundreds of millions of light years beyond the surface of the valley. Compared with it, the earth was as small as a drop in the ocean. The sky above the valley is not a sky at all. Although it is a clear daytime, the sky above is a vast expanse of stars. The birds and beasts in the valley are not comparable to the monsters on the earth. There's a purer airflow than the earth. This is not an ordinary airflow, because Chu Tiannan knows what it is. And this is it. Chu Tiannan looked at the gradually evolving void around him, and a hint of surprise suddenly appeared in his eyes. Origin world? That's right. The scene presented by the void at this time is exactly the origin world where Chu Tiannan was in his previous life. And this valley is exactly where his demon dragon ruler is. My hometown. Chu Tiannan wanted to enter that void at this time, but he found that he was just a spectator looking at the origin world in front of him and couldn't enter at all. Because that is just a void, not reality at all. I want to go back. I want to go back. At this moment, Chu Tiannan's desire to go home was stronger than Chu Tiannan's. He flew over, and although he couldn't touch it, he wanted to take a good look. Take a look at your hometown. Look at the world of origin. Call out. At this moment, a black figure passed by in the originally beautiful and natural valley. With his appearance, the originally clear sky suddenly became darker and darker, as if he had the power of darkness and boundlessness, making the originally fresh and beautiful natural valleys gloomy. Chu Tiannan looked at the strange black figure. For some reason, his heart suddenly ached, and some broken space fragments began to appear repeatedly in his mind. Kill it. You are the king. Kill it, kill it. This voice suddenly appeared in Chu Tiannan's mind, like some kind of crazy consciousness began to erode his soul. At this moment, Chu Tiannan was covering his head in pain. His soul power was so strong that he couldn't hold back even a little bit. Kill it, kill it, kill it. This crazy consciousness, when a black shadow appeared in the void, began to erode Chu Tiannan continuously. Get lost. Chu Tiannan yelled angrily at this time. His soul power could be turned into a massive, tsunami-like attack, rushing out from all directions. It is necessary to suppress this crazy shock of consciousness. After all, Chu Tiannan was the ruler of the demon dragon in his previous life. Although his body is gone, his soul still exists. He didn't know where this consciousness shock came from. Because of its attack intensity, there was no soul consciousness on Earth to contend with it. If Chu Tiannan's soul did not come from the master soul of his previous life, this soul shock alone would be enough to completely annihilate his soul. I don't know how long it took. Chu Tiannan struggled against this crazy consciousness attack for a long time. His face was a little painful, but he still persisted. After all, his strength at this time was too weak. The weakness of his physical body made him a little overwhelmed. Who are you? Chu Tiannan said weakly, looking at the black figure standing above the valley with his back turned to him. Kill it, kill it. At this moment, the black figure didn't turn around, and the voice came from him. The next moment, the black figure seemed to have discovered something behind it, and it turned around slowly. At the same time, the darkness above the entire origin world was like endless fear. Suppress it slowly. When Chu Tiannan fixed his gaze on the slowly turning black figure, his star pupils suddenly burst into a gloomy light, and he roared. Who are you? Who are you? In reality, Chu Tiannan suddenly opened his eyes. At this moment, he sat up suddenly. His eyes were full of horror, and cold sweat covered his entire forehead. Ho! Chu Tiannan took a big breath of air, trying to calm himself down as much as possible. At this moment, he realized that he was sitting on the bed, and the surrounding scene was no longer a fighting arena. But this place turned out to be a special room. Tiannan, what's wrong with you? At this moment, Luo, who was taking a nap, was awakened by Chu Tiannan. She looked at the frightened young man with her beautiful eyes and couldn't help asking, Who the hell are you? Hearing this, Chu Tiannan raised his head dumbly, looking at the worried girl sitting beside him, but he still muttered to himself. Now Chu Tiannan seemed to have lost his soul, repeating that sentence over and over again. Watching Luo Air felt a little bit uncomfortable. Tiannan, do you still recognize me? There was no one else in the room at this time. Luo Air held the panicked face in her small hands, and her voice was soft and sweet. I'm Luo Air. At this moment, Chu Tiannan couldn't listen to any words at all, and he was still repeating what he said just now. His voice was like a confused lamb in the dark. This is a kind of fear from the soul. Luo Er can't imagine what happened to Chu Tiannan just now. Tiannan, don't do this, okay? Luo Er saw that the other party was really terrified, and her heart suddenly felt distressed. Because in her understanding, even in the face of a desperate situation, Chu Tiannan would not show his frightened and helpless eyes at this moment. What could make him do this? The current Chu Tiannan still has the appearance of a martial god, like a panicked child. His helpless gaze is really heartbreaking and worrying. Who the hell are you? At the moment when Chu Tiannan's eyes were blank and murmured, in the next second, the fragrance wafted through his nostrils, and the cool, thin lips were directly printed on his lips. At this moment, Luo Er actually kissed Chu Tiannan directly. Although there was no one around in the room, Luo Er's first kiss was after all, and her pretty face was naturally blushing, but she didn't know why. When she saw Chu Tiannan like this, she felt very distressed. What am I doing? Luo Er didn't know what she was thinking at this moment, but she knew that she must help Chu Tiannan recover. Because of him, she felt distressed. Before she knew it, even Luo Er didn't know that Chu Tiannan's status in her heart had already surpassed that of a so-called friend. Of course, what kind of relationship will be achieved? Even she herself is very confused. In the room, Qinying hugged the young man's neck with her slender arms, kissing the panicked face. Time passed by every minute and every second, and after Chu Tiannan gradually calmed down, he felt the cool fragrance on his lips, and his expressionless eyes suddenly widened. It seems to be surprised, but gradually, those staring and astonished eyes were filled with warmth and tenderness, and subconsciously, Chu Tiannan wrapped his hand around that slender waist subconsciously. Only in this way did Chu Tiannan gradually regain consciousness, and his star pupils were gradually replaced by calmness and determination. Of course, at this moment, the young man only has her in his eyes. After a long time, the two parted their lips. At this moment, there was a trace of confusion in Luo Er's bright eyes, and Chu Tiannan subconsciously pursed his lips. You. Seeing this, Luo Er raised her eyebrows. If it wasn't because of Chu Tiannan's special situation just now. She almost drew her sword. What happened to me just now? Seeing that the situation was wrong, Chu Tiannan scratched his head and said awkwardly, You men are all of the same virtue. Hearing this, Luo Er couldn't help but waved her small fist to punch the opponent, but she found that even if she didn't use the power of a warrior, she couldn't bear to do it. On the other hand, Chu Tiannan also stretched out his big hand and immediately hugged the other's slender waist under the girl's exclamation. He hugged it in his arms and refused to let go of it. Why didn't you tell me when you came to Martial God Island? Chu Tiannan was afraid that the person in front of him would run away, so he hugged Luo Er tightly, sniffing the fresh fragrance, and said in a low voice. Luo Er's pretty face blushed. She struggled a little, but couldn't break free at all. Seeing no one around, she simply gave up and said with a snort, Wouldn't it be no surprise if I told you? Hearing this, Chu Tiannan laughed, looked at the beautiful face in front of him, gazed affectionately, and said, I miss you. Hearing Chu Tiannan's words, Luo Er's expression was stunned. An imperceptible cunning flashed in her beautiful eyes, and she nodded lightly. Oh! Chu Tiannan waited for his big eyes, looked at the pretty girl in front of him with some viciousness, and paused every word. You owe me. Hearing this, Luo Er looked at Chu Tiannan with those bright eyes, nodded seriously, and said, In. Seeing this, Chu Tiannan stared fixedly at the girl in front of him. Then the corners of his mouth slightly lifted. His eyes were full of malicious intentions. Are you sure you owe me? No regrets. What do you mean? Luo Er asked in puzzlement with her eyes shining brightly. In that case, then I will reluctantly agree to you, owe me. After speaking, Chu Tiannan couldn't help laughing. The smile seemed a bit obscene. What do you want to say? Seeing the other party's shameless smile, Luo Er immediately understood that there was nothing good. You can't hit me after I finish speaking, or I won't say anything if you kill me. Seeing the girl's curiosity, Chu Tiannan smiled complacently, but there was a trace of hesitation in his words, which made the other party agree. Speak. Luo Er nodded lightly when she heard the words. Her words were pleasant and soft. Then you read the word "oh" separately. After saying this, Chu Tiannan felt a little embarrassed. Take it apart and read it. Luo Er really analyzed Chu Tiannan's words obediently. The next second, her pretty face was flushed, and she wanted to swing the sword in shame and anger. Seeing this, Chu Tiannan hurriedly said, "It's agreed, you can't hit people." Holding the hilt of the sword in her slender hand, Luo Er looked at the opponent angrily. The blade of the giant sword was not out of its sheath, but she still punched it. Boom, boom, boom. Hey, you said you'd never hit someone. Why didn't you keep your word? Chu Tiannan kept howling while protecting his face. You were the one who hit you. I find that you are becoming more and more shameless. Luo Er bit her teeth lightly and hammered the opponent with the hilt of her sword continuously. At this time, the room was full of howls like killing pigs, but they couldn't get through the room at all. The sound insulation effect is very good. Ding dong. The doorbell of the electronic door rang. Ken opened it, and a young man came out. At this time, there were several people standing in the corridor. It's just that their expressions are different. Damn, brother, what's wrong with you? Xianglai stared at Chu Tiannan with rounded eyes and couldn't help asking. And Laina stared at Chu Tiannan with beautiful eyes. If it wasn't for the crowd at this time, she would almost have laughed out loud. The rest were from the Huaming District's instructor team and the talent team. Even Lin Yuro was a little surprised. Chu Tiannan's face was swollen at this time. Looking at the familiar people, he couldn't help asking, "Why are you here?" "I'll go, boy. You can break through to the Valkyrie level, and your face is swollen?" Raptor Valkyrie held his arms. He suppressed his trembling body and smiled. Hearing this, Chu Tiannan looked a little embarrassed, wanted to retreat, but couldn't, immediately coughed lightly, and said calmly, "You guys don't know that it takes courage and danger to break through to the martial god level." Halfway through the speech, Chu Tiannan found that he couldn't continue. "What's the matter?" At this moment, Luo Er ignored the young man who was winking and immediately walked out, looking at everyone. At this time, when the people in the Huaming district saw Luo Er from the Baiming district, they were all stunned. "Brother, I understand, haha." Xianglai looked at Chu Tiannan, then at Luo Er. He understood immediately and couldn't help laughing out loud. "If you don't talk, no one will think you are dumb." Chu Tiannan glared at the burly young man with a dark face and sighed in his heart why he had such a nervous little brother. Haha. When the first person laughed, the laughter was like a fuse and the madness spread, and finally everyone burst into laughter. At this moment, Chu Tiannan not only had a swollen face, but even his eyes were big and small. He looked at Luo Er viciously, gnashing his teeth in his heart. "It's punishment for making you unreliable." Luo Er felt Chu Tiannan's emotions beside her and snorted while suppressing a smile. "I think you're a girl. I don't have the same knowledge as you." Chu Tiannan covered his face. Because of his swollen face, he couldn't speak clearly, which made everyone laugh. "It's very lively." At this moment, an old and gentle laughter came, and everyone looked over and hurriedly saluted. "Meet the MP. Meet the counselor." Seeing the three old men in white robes slowly approaching, everyone saluted. At this time, even Laina, who was the strongest in the crowd, had to be obedient. After all, the strength of the three of them should not be underestimated. Seeing this, Chu Tiannan and Luo Er naturally saluted, and the former's eyes fell on the gentle old man who was the leader. He felt that he could not see through the depth of the other party's strength at all. "Swallow, show me, what kind of strength are those three people?" Chu Tiannan thought to himself, "Host, the three of them can easily kill you. I can't detect what level they are." Hearing this, Chu Tiannan's eyes were puzzled, and he couldn't help asking, "Aren't you omnipotent? Why can't you detect it?" "Host, I am only the subsidiary intelligence of the devouring system. The strength level of the three people has completely exceeded my detection." When you complete the third inheritance task, the new devouring intelligence will answer for you. Besides, you are still a younger brother. Hearing this, Chu Tiannan's face twitched slightly, and he stopped talking. Hee, since everyone is here, let me make an announcement for now. The elder stepped forward, looked at everyone, and said gently, "First of all, congratulations to the Huaming District for winning number 1. The talented teams of the Huaming District have the right to choose the first elite battalion and specialized troops. Do you have any choices?" Reply member, "We are willing to enter the elite camp in the Eastern District." At this time, led by Xiong Lai and Li Qianqian, the 7 spoke first. Well, the elite camp in the Eastern District is the strongest in the Genius District of Valkyrie Island. I hope that after you choose, you will work hard and don't want to be kicked out of the elite camp. Hearing this, the elder nodded slightly. After finishing the elite battalion, he put his eyes on Chu Tiannan, and immediately he was taken aback and couldn't help asking, "Little guy, why did your breakthrough to the martial god level make your face suddenly swollen?" Return to the counselor. "This is an accident." Chu Tiannan clasped his fists in return, and the others around him trembled slightly. If the counselor wasn't here, they might burst into laughter again. This time, Huaming District has produced 2 real geniuses, and Huaming District is one of them, which is very good. The elder ignored the others. He looked at Chu Tiannan and praised. "In order to reward you, the rookie genius number 1, this is for you. Don't let it down." As he said, the old man lifted his skinny big hand under Ling Lao's eyelids and saw a metal scroll fly up automatically. Finally, it fell into Chu Tiannan's hands. "This is..." Looking at the metal scroll in his hand, Chu Tiannan couldn't help asking, "Dare to ask the counselor, what is this?" "It's a good thing. It's the most helpful to you so far. It's a reward for the top rookie genius in the 4 districts." The elder smiled and said, "Originally, the number 1 is that in addition to rewarding military industry and others, there's also the right to choose specialized troops. This is a benefit added to you by the old man. Make good use of it, and it will let you go to another level." Seeing that the elders would give away things, the warriors in the instructor team were all surprised. They're all old people. "I have brought so many newcomers, but I have never seen a member of parliament give benefits. Chu Tiannan can be said to be the first." "Thank you, Senator." Chu Tiannan didn't put on an air. He directly accepted the metal scroll and said respectfully. Hearing this, the old man nodded slightly. His eyes fell on Lin Yuro and Lu Tong, and he said, "You 2 little fellows have priority, but you haven't reached the martial god level, so you have to practice in a special camp like those old students." Junior understands. Lin Yuro glanced at Chu Tiannan with beautiful eyes and immediately agreed with Lu Tong at the same time. "In that case, let's all leave. You and this girl stay here, little guy. I have something to say to you." After explaining everything, the elder waved his hand, and everyone bowed and retreated. Laina also left without any surprise. Before she left, her beautiful eyes fell on Chu Tiannan, and she gave an encouraging smile. It's been 10 years since a newcomer advanced to the martial god level. This time, there are 2 good ones. After everyone left, the elder's calm eyes fell on Chu Tiannan and Luo Air and said with a smile, "2." Hearing this, Chu Tiannan was stunned, then looked at the beautiful girl beside him and couldn't help muttering, "How come you're also at the martial god level?" Chu Tiannan looked at the beautiful girl beside him and couldn't help muttering, "How come you have reached the martial god level? What? Do you have an opinion?" Luo Air's beautiful eyes flashed a hint of cunning, and she said proudly, "It is impossible for you to surpass me." Chu Tiannan shrugged casually with disapproval on his face, but secretly surprised in his heart. The reason why he was less than the martial god level in a year is mostly due to the devouring system, and Luo obviously does not have the help of a similar devouring system, but he can also go ahead. It was only then that Chu Tiannan realized that he couldn't see through Luo Air, the other party always promoted when he was promoted. It's like he reached the martial ancestor level before. Luo reached the martial ancestor level without any surprise, Now Chu Tiannan has advanced to the martial god level, but Luo seems to have already reached the martial god level. And Chu Tiannan knew that he was at the martial god level, but he was rewarded by the devouring system. Let's talk about the old days later. The old man interrupted the two with a smile and said gently, "You all know that in our human camp, the Valkyrie is the most precious and the most backbone force. Every Valkyrie is precious, incomparable." Chu Tiannan and Luo listened carefully to each other's explanation without interrupting. You also know that people below the Valkyrie level are protected by humans. Since the two of you already have the Valkyrie level, you have already stepped out of this protection range. Now I want to ask you." As he said that, the old man looked at the two seriously and said, "Are you willing to join the Martial God Alliance to protect the human side?" At this moment, the air was full of seriousness. Chu Tiannan looked at Luo when he heard this. He wanted to hear the other party's opinion. After all, Luo's identity belongs to the existing 100 alliances, and now she is the Valkyrie Alliance. Will joining the Valkyrie Alliance restrain her? I'll listen to you. Sensing the gaze cast on her, Luo understood the meaning of the question from Chu Tiannan's eyes. Her heart warmed quietly, and she immediately smiled sweetly. This sentence, "I listen to you," made Chu Tiannan almost forget what he was going to do. He was stunned, and the former sentence echoed in his heart. "Member, I am willing to join the Martial God Alliance." Chu Tiannan bowed slightly. "Very good. From now on, you are a part of the Martial God Alliance." The elder nodded slightly. No one could see the satisfaction and happiness in his eyes at this moment. Of course, this Martial God Alliance is just a loose organization, and it cannot conflict with your own Tobu Hall, because one of the leaders of this Valkyrie Alliance is the chief owner of your Tobu Hall. As if answering it, the elder's words made Chu Tiannan heave a sigh of relief. "You two guys are newly promoted martial gods, so you don't have a title yet. Have you thought about your title?" Feng Lao said from the side. Chu Tiannan nodded slightly when he heard the words, thinking about it in his heart. Yes, the newly promoted martial god still needs to have the title, but he can't be called the demon dragon martial god either. This world is invaded by monsters, and he has the title of demon dragon, afraid of being hanged and beaten. "My title should be Lioli." This time it was Luo's turn to speak first, and she quite liked this word. After all, it's just a title, so plain and not eye-catching. "Lioli martial god, good." Feng Lao took out the martial artist system bracelet, and after synchronizing Luo's martial god status, he asked with his eyes on Chu Tiannan, who was rubbing his chin with his right hand, "Little guy, what about yours?" At this time, Chu Tiannan didn't reply immediately. Instead, he was still thinking about it. "I have two artifacts, Yin Tian and Tianze. It is not good to name either one, called Chu Wushan. It's too vulgar." Thinking about it, Chu Tiannan suddenly remembered that when he broke through, he was accompanied by a stream of black and yellow chaotic air, and his eyes were slightly bright. "Little guy figured it out?" Yuan smiled and stroked his snow-white long beard, and said gently, "I figured it out, member. I'll give you the title Chaos." Chu Tiannan thought for a while and said, "Chaos martial god?" Hearing this, the elder Yuan and the three looked at each other, and the elderling said nonchalantly, "Boy, you are so crazy that you dare to name it after chaos. Why don't you change it? This word is uncontrollable for ordinary people." Feng Lao couldn't help reminding, "What is the word chaos? That is the original source of everything, the beginning of the chaos of the universe. No more, just let it go." Chu Tiannan naturally wouldn't reveal his secret. His gaze was firm. Seeing Chu Tiannan's firm gaze, Feng Lao naturally shook his head slightly and immediately updated the warrior system. "In the past, your authority was low, but now because you have become Valkyrie, your authority is automatically upgraded to the Valkyrie Alliance, and your title will be known to others in the future." Feng Lao explained. "Junior, understand?" Chu Tiannan and Luo saluted at the same time. "Okay, I've finished everything else, and the last thing is missing," the elder said with a smile. "Because you have the right to choose special forces first, do you have any ideas?" "Special forces?" Hearing that it was the last step, Chu Tiannan became curious and couldn't help asking, "Member, what exactly does this special force do?" Seeing that the young man was puzzled, the three of them looked at each other, and the elder said in astonishment, "You don't even know about the special forces of the Martial God Alliance?" "Oh, my family was poor when I was young, so I couldn't get any information at all." Chu Tiannan sighed and said bitterly, while Luo Air almost laughed out loud, "I don't blame you. You little guy is really talented." Hearing this, the elder nodded thoughtfully, and he actually believed it, shaking his head and smiling. "You have no background, but you can advance from a warrior to a warrior in less than a year. To be honest, it is enviable." Even Luo Air looked curiously. She was very surprised how Chu Tiannan did it. This speed of cultivation, except for those rare people in the world, it seems that there has never been such a heaven-defying existence. Chu Tiannan smiled awkwardly when he heard the words, but he couldn't answer. Looking at the beautiful girl beside him, he couldn't help muttering in his heart, "Talk like you're not a genius." The special forces can't explain clearly after one sentence or two. "How about this? You rest first. There is information about special forces in the Martial God Alliance. You can check it out. After making your choice, just submit the application to me." Feng Lao said at this time said, "Yes, counselor." Hearing this, Chu Tiannan saluted slightly. "Since the matter has been completed, let's go." Ling Lao's eyes were extremely flat from the beginning to the end, probably because he was naturally not in a good mood looking at Chu Tiannan, who made him lose the bet. "Kids, work hard. I hope you can become existences beyond the martial gods in the future." The elder nodded slightly, turned his eyes to Chu Tiannan and Luo Air, and said with a smile, "The juniors are doing their best." Kindness. After explaining everything, the three elders suddenly disappeared in place. At such a speed, Chu Tiannan's eyes widened, and he didn't understand how the other party left. What strength are they? After the three congressmen left, Chu Tiannan couldn't help muttering, because just now, he felt that the elder was looking at him, as if he could see through it completely, which made Chu Tiannan a little uncomfortable. "You don't know what it's like to be a member of parliament?" Luo Air was surprised this time, and immediately nodded thoughtfully and joked, "That's right, my family is poor." After finishing speaking, Luo Air couldn't help herself, covered her mouth and smiled softly, with a sweet smile. "I really don't know." Chu Tiannan touched his nose, and after thinking about it seriously, he couldn't help but said, "Could it be that they are?" There was a hint of surprise in the words. "That's right. They are existences beyond Valkyrie." Even at this moment, Luo Air had a slight yearning for this level, and said softly, "The ones who can easily move mountains and seas and roam the sky are the existence of these transcendent warriors. In the eyes of our warriors, they're like real gods, unshakable." Listening to Luo Air's explanation, Chu Tiannan swallowed slightly and couldn't help but said, "A real god? They all mobilize the power of heaven and earth. Is there such a big difference between surpassing a martial god and a martial god?" Luo Air shook his head lightly, with a trace of awe in his eyes, and replied, "The same is to mobilize the power of heaven and earth, but beyond the level of martial god, you can use the power from outside the sky." Power from beyond the sky. Chu Tiannan was stunned for a moment and immediately couldn't help muttering, "Universe? This is very important news." Chu Tiannan knew that he had to go back to the world of origin, so he had to find a way to travel in the universe, since the god of chaos could rely on the power of the sky. The greater the chance of returning to the original world. "Let's not talk about this now. Here, return it to you." While Chu Tiannan was still secretly analyzing, Luo Air handed a small metal card to the former and said. Chu Tiannan was startled when he saw this, and immediately hung it around his neck, and said with a smile, "What did you find out?"